All right. Well, welcome to the Sales Leadership Development Meeting. I'm super excited to get to work with you guys today and really share some of the big tips and keys that my manager shared with me my first summer that helped me earn, $22,000 in income, which was pretty phenomenal, especially at 19, coming from low income. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 people in it. And so it was just such a incredible blessing, to be able to earn what I did, my first summer, but also be able to take that knowledge and not just use it that summer, but continue to utilize that, in growth and utilizing that in different businesses, utilizing that now to help and support other people in their businesses, as I do a lot of executive business coaching outside of Cutco. And I'm excited for you guys to get to learn a little bit more. All right. And so let me go ahead and share my screen here. And you guys definitely want to make sure you have something to take notes with as we go throughout the day. But just real quick, to open us up. So again, SLDM stands for Sales Leadership Development Meeting. All right. And I'm really excited. We've got 3 main goals for you guys. This is a little bit about me, and then your assistant division manager, who you're going to be working with, Mr. Cody Rose, as I step out on maternity. Mr. Rose is Hall of Fame manager, over $1 million in sales. He's had $3 million plus performances, Rolex winner, national record holder. Like, he's incredible. He teaches at Blinn. Some of you guys know him from class, and is just super passionate about the Vector opportunity and what we get to do for people. And you couldn't be left in better hands. So I'm super excited for this fall. We've got our branch manager team, our district manager team. Many of you have had the opportunity to meet. I'm super stoked that on Tuesday at our conference, you will have an opportunity to meet Mr. Lloyd Reagan up on the top right there, my boss. So he will be coming into town to get to meet some of the top performers. He will be coming to the champions reception at 6 o'clock to mingle with those that are there, and it's anybody's game, guys. You can get to that. It's only $3,000 to be at that reception, and you could do that in a day. All right. And with the tips I'm going to give you guys today, if you go out and implement, I'm really excited to see what happens and what you can do for that. And so just know that, part of over the next 2 weeks and what I've been already doing this past week is we are screening through. We have 80 to 100 applicants, it looks like we'll have this year, maybe some more. I've already met with a dozen of those, of people who are excited about learning about future opportunities with our company. And so I know next year our goal would be to have 10 district manager offices. We don't have a ton of graduates and non-students, but there are some people that we're looking at and targeting for that. And some of our current managers, and then to have 20 or more branch offices. This is 30 offices, and if we said just 5 assistants per office, which most of our goals are to have 7 to 10 assistants, with 5 each, that's 150 assistant manager positions that will be available next summer. All right. So I want to make sure that you guys are, thinking about that, because there's a lot of opportunity for growth and for advancement. And we'll talk about that in a bit. And again, you guys are part of a spectacular team. This is from our division meeting, some of the highlights, but just love seeing our people grow and dominate. But our 3 objectives for today, number 1 is to really inform you about opportunities for summer and beyond. Second, to help you sell more Cutco. And so I love developing national champions, record breakers, All-Americans, scholarship winners. I don't know. I'd have to actually research data to find out, but I don't think, if any, if there are many offices, if any, that have produced more scholarship winners from their organization. There are summers where I've had 4 to 6 All-Americans just in a summer, and that's top 50 out of 20,000 people across the country, and this is out of 300 or 400 offices. Actually, during the summer, it's closer to 500 offices. And so when you think about 500 offices and there's only 50 scholarship winners, all right, well, that means that literally only 1% of or 10% of are even going to have one possibly. And our office had, 4 or 5 or 6, from our organization. So that was pretty cool. And then Silver Cup champions. I do not believe that there's any office that has produced more Rookie of the Year Silver Cups than my office. And I take a lot of pride in that. And not to brag, but I love developing high level representatives. And I was really blessed to have amazing coaching and mentorship when I first started, and I'm excited to pass that on. Cool. And then to scout talent, like we're always looking to see like who stands out, who's involved, who's learning, who wants to grow, as we keep building our amazing organization. And next year will be a really big year of expansion. Right now, we are in the second half. Today is halftime showdown. We planned this today to really bring some ammo, for those who wanted to get the extra tips, the extra coaching to help you guys absolutely crush the second half of the push. And I'm excited to be able to give you guys the goods today. And next Tuesday, we will have Summer Conference 1 in downtown. That's going to be unbelievable. I just finished tying up all loose ends with our Cutco sales professionals, with our management team. We've got absolutely dynamic speakers. And I'm just really stoked for you guys to get to take advantage. And we'll be talking about life stuff. There'll be some personal development. There'll be things that are going to impact your resume, and then obviously we'll have lunch and learn, which is my favorite, getting to pick the brains of all the top people while you have lunch at the event. And then July, we'll be prepping, and be thinking about this. Like, okay, if you really want to maximize your summer earnings, after summer conference, when I went my first summer conference 23 summers ago, it was at that event that I was like, all right, you know what? I want to do this for real, and I interviewed for the Alliance, and I was able to be a part of that, which we have our first boot camp on Monday, July 1st. And I said, all right, let's go. Let's see what we can make happen, right? And so I went to the boot camps, I prepared, and I just went all out for July into mid-August before I left to study abroad. And it was really in that month and a half in July and August, half a month August, that I was able to earn the big bucks. I earned almost 20K of my 22K came just during that time, and so we know that even if you're not where you want to be, those who had big goals for summer going in, some of you are newer and you're like, I don't even know what to expect. The best is yet to come, so we're down about the third of the summer right now. We have 2/3 and the 2 biggest thirds of the summer left, with big sales that are about to go down. And I'm super excited to help you guys with that. One of my big goals with Cutco, and I was talking to someone earlier today, and why I'm here, 23 summers later, isn't just because I love selling knives so much, like I love what we get to do for people. I love to see how youth get to grow and develop. I love the skill sets that we really focus on here and how that really sets you guys up for your future. I've never seen a job, and guys, I'm a founder and owner of a multi-million-dollar, group. Like everyone in the group has to be worth minimum $1 million. Most of them are 2, 3, 5 mil, some at 10 mil, some at 20, some at 30 mil. And these are high-powered female investors, entrepreneurs, and executives in all different industries. Everything from crime scene cleanup, attorneys, doctors, they own hotels, breweries, all different types of businesses. I mean, it's nuts. I love it. Like from dance studios to acting to, and high level. I mean, a dance studio, she's coaching all of the stars and Dancing with the Stars and people out in Los Angeles, and it's just so cool. And they're always so curious about this. And like, how do I know all the things I know? I do a lot of the executive business coaching for the women. I help them with teams, culture, retaining, building great organizations, how to really set up their organizational structure so that they can step away and be a true business owner versus just a full-time operator. And they're always just like, oh my gosh, how do you know all this? And I just kind of laugh. I'm like, honestly, I was like, I learned a lot of this with Cutco. I said, being 19 and getting to go through Leadership Academy, running my first office at 20 years old, my first business, at 21, graduating college, and earning 6 figures, that year working with Cutco. By 25, earning, $250,000 a year. And that continuing to increase as the years went on was just life-changing. I was I learned English in second grade. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 people in it. Never, ever, ever could I have imagined, that I would be surrounded by these multi-millionaires and billionaires who are just so growth oriented, and so heart centered. And I just love that I get to do that. But like, they're always just so curious and they're like, man, like, I wish I could have done Cutco when I was younger. Like, oh, can my kids work for you? I have several of our people who are like, I'd love my kids to work with you. And they can develop these skills and learn the interpersonal communication, the time management, the organization, the professionalism, the rapport building, and being able to build relationships with anybody anywhere to instill trust and comfort where they want to do business with you. That's enormous. That's huge for fundraising, capital raises, private equity, being able to share where you're going and what you're doing. Like, so whether it's raising funds, starting businesses together, scaling businesses, like a lot of these skill sets are just so needed, right? In anything that you do. And the higher up you go, you understand it's not just about trading time for money, but it's about investing in the right places. And so here you guys are getting experience that every single company needs and wants. And I love that. And that's for me, I still do this, like I always looked at it like I'm a coach, I'm a teacher. I just teach skills for life, and I get to coach people and stuff that's going to help them for a lifetime and can transform their world as it did for me and my family. My family's all very low income, but my siblings and I will all, everybody, I think my sister's just shy of hitting millionaire status, or they were and went backwards and are back up. But my brother and his wife and my sister, myself, we are completely stopping like the generational norms of our family. And we're just so excited to get to teach our kids different things, and to bring them up. Just having like a lot of this knowledge and entrepreneurial foundations and having wealth building knowledge and knowing what it takes to be really successful and live a life that you love, whatever that means for you, right? But having time and space for the things that you love doing. And so for some that might be, travel. For some that might be serving, doing more nonprofit work. For others that might just be more family time, like whatever it is, but having the time and space to do it. And you guys get to have that. We love celebrating you guys. This is something that is going on. You guys still have, a month or 5 weeks to capitalize on this. Talk to your managers if you haven't already. We're super stoked for Royal Caribbean Cruise. I will be there. You guys will get to meet little baby and my boys. We are going to have a great time. We love these cruises. We love just getting a chance to connect with you guys. And it is something that if you wanted to bring any family or friends, like they're welcome to join. But we've got different levels so that you can go for free. So again, talk to your managers. I would send them a text and say, hey, I really want to go on the cruise. Because they can sit down and really make a game plan with you to help you get there. All right. And so we want to see you guys be able to join that. So what does it take, right? To move up, to advance. I was talking to someone earlier today in a Leadership Academy interview, and they were asking me about this and what it looks like, and I think about step one is just being here, showing up when we have these higher level, workshops or breakfasts. I know next Tuesday, we're going to be walking through. We have a breakfast at 9 a.m. up at the Houston Club, followed by, we're going to be talking about district manager and the pay comp and what that looks like, and learning about that opportunity, which is a year plus opportunity, which is great for non-students or people taking a break, or some students that, this is really aligned with what they're studying and they can really incorporate this into their curriculum and even earn college credits while doing it, right? But it starts with being here and learning and growing. The next thing is key staff. If you're not already on key staff, you're like, what is that? These are the captains of our team, and they get the most attention, the most guidance, the most support from our managers. And I would say right now, like I would text your manager and just say, what do I need to do to get on key staff? Like literally right now, grab your phone and just text your manager, what do I need to do to be a key staff? But our biggest earners always come from key staff. Our managers always come from key staff. Our Cutco sales professionals always come from key staff. Everything. I mean, this is a group that we really focus to helping them be at their best. And they're always on the fast track, so they get extra attention, extra contests, make more money, and they're on the fast track for everything else. these individuals hit Dirty 30 the quickest. Now the next step is how do we help get them to bonus land, right? FSL, FSM is bonus land. And I'll pull up the chart in a minute so you guys can screenshot and know like the different levels in terms of, where you want to go. Cause I think that's a really good thing to think about. And as you go into the summer, it's going, okay, what percentage would I be excited about, right? Like, what would I be excited about accomplishing this summer before I go back to school, right? And what percentage do I want to go? Like, my goal is to be at 50% by summer. And so what is it for you? Like, what level? And depending on, again, how much time and availability you have to be able to work and to commit to this, right? And so some people work very part-time and just work 2 or 3 days a week. Some people are working more full-time and working 5 or 6 days a week. Everybody's different. For me, during the summer, I loved working 5 or 6 days a week. And during the school year, I typically worked 1 or 2. Had a very intense school schedule. I was in the honors program. I was working on my thesis, and I also was a collegiate athlete. So it took a lot of time. But you can get it all done. All right. And that's something that we can help you guys with, if that's something that you're like, man, I've got a really busy schedule. I was talking to one of the gentlemen from Woodlands this morning, and he's, preparing for his LSATs, and, law school applications are due in September, October. And he's like, I got so much. I'm like, yep, just need to sit down and make sure that we get a good schedule of when are you studying? When are you filling out applications? When are you doing this? And maybe you just work 1 or 2 days a week, and that's it. And during the pushes, take advantage of those, win some extra stuff, make some more money, and then just stay consistent working 1 or 2 days a week. And that's it. And he's like, I can do that. I was like, yeah. And so make a schedule that really supports you. The next level is assistant manager or sales manager. Assistant managers are really, depending what level they are, they're helping run operations within an office, within an organization. And so these individuals are doing a lot of the same things that managers do. They just have less responsibility. They might not actually own the office. They're not paying the bills. They might not work as many days. They might just work 1 day in the office or 2 days, right? As an assistant manager. A sales manager is usually a little bit more involved. And they definitely see, they're usually training to be a top level branch manager or district manager, really get on the fast track for that. Okay. And so we want to help you guys with that, and help you guys with that, development. If you were there last week, I talked about branch manager. That's a summer internship. Cool. And you kind of get a taste of both worlds. You get a taste of kicking off a business, which is probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life, whether you're starting your own, golf store, or your own dental practice, or an optical store, or, I don't know, a dance studio. The startup phase is like having a baby, and it is exhausting, but it's worth it, and you build it long term. And so as a branch, you learn the startup phase of how to start up a business, and you also get a taste of Cutco Sales Professional. You get to make 50% commissions all for 3 months, all of July, all of August, all of September. All right. And actually all of our branch managers, they start making half right after playoffs next week, like right after the conference. They're at 50% commission starting next week, which is pretty awesome. So that's that level. The next level is district manager, and district manager is 1 to 3 year opportunity. All right. And obviously it can be a lot longer. Some people stick around, but it's a launch pad, to owning your own business outside of Cutco, while others fall in love, like I did, like Cody did, like John did. And we were like, I just love it here. Like, I love the people. I love the culture. I love what we do for people. Like, why the heck would I go, anywhere else? And we just, we're wired, like, we love coaching. John coaches baseball and he plays, we're athletes. Like, we've been part of teams. Cody was part of the core and he also played different sports, right? I was a collegiate athlete. I love being in team. I love the competition. I love seeing people grow. I love impacting youth and seeing the younger generations thrive. And so for me, it was like a position that really embodied so many of the things that I am very passionate about in one place. And so I was able to work in a team environment. I was able to compete. I was able to impact youth. I was able to use my love for people and business all in one place, and I really love that. So district manager, whether someone does it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, or ends up doing it for over 10 years like I did, or 15 years like Cody, it is a really unbelievable opportunity. And it was my favorite job. And then I decided to inquire and find out more about division manager, which is my role now. And so division manager runs a state or part of a state. Some states are small in the nation, and so some division managers will run two. Texas is like its own country, so we have like 4 divisions in Texas. I think it's the only state. Well, California also has, um, I think, as many divisions, if not close to it. And I know Florida has 2 or 3. But we've got a huge state. And so division manager runs a state or an area. For us, it's the Gulf of Texas, right? And we oversee that area, help with manager development, and help develop more people in all of these categories. Cool. And so my job is to be a talent scout, to be looking out to say, okay, who are our future scholarship winners? Who do we see as the captains? Who do we see as future development? And that we could really see growing in our company, whether it's for a season and you're using it as a launch pad for something else, or you decide, I freaking love this place like we did, and you end up being here a lot longer. And so we are excited to really know how we can best support you, right? And like how this business is going to serve you long term. And make a plan to help you with that. All right. As far as the levels go for percentage, please screenshot this if you don't have this already, to know where you're at and where that next level is. Cool. Everybody makes 30% forever on their weekly paychecks. All right. Unless you're a branch and you get straight 50 on your checks for 3 months, which is pretty exciting. All right. So this right here, each level. All right. So once you get to 30, everything after, I should probably put a line at 20,000. How it works is you get 20% every week, and there is a quota you have to meet for bonuses. All right. So the extra 5% to make 35, 10% to make 40%, the extra 15% to make 45, or the extra 20% to make 50. There is a quota for that, because for the bonuses, that is a reward for our consistent performers. Cool. Now, the quota is pretty low. Most of our field sales managers and Cutco sales professionals will knock it out like in 1 week, and the rest of the month is just bonus, right? But there is and it's a different number for each level. And so that's something that you guys can talk to your managers to go through. But the goal is to get to 150,000 as soon as possible. Most people, that takes them 2 years. Most students, 2 or 3 years. By the way, here's a fast track is a branch. So when you run a branch, like my branch, my first summer, I sold about 48,000. My second summer, I branched. Well, y'all, my branch did 146,000. Whatever your branch sells gets tacked on to your career sales. So at the end of my branch, all right, and this is a program that they started doing about a decade ago, which is amazing. It didn't exist when I was a branch, but to help get there quicker, as a reward for doing something hard, right? Running a business is not easy. And so going out of your comfort zone, pushing yourself to growth, you get to make 50% for 3 months, but everything your office sells tacks onto your sales career-wise. So for example, I sold 40 something grand my first summer. I went into my second summer, so I would have been at like 40%, right? Selling. Well, that summer, my office did 146 grand. So now my career sales were around whatever, 190, 195, just shy of 200. So once my 50% for branch stops in October, I'm at 150K plus in career. So I'm making 50% forever. Now it switches to the 30% weekly starting in October, and then 20% getting my monthly bonus. But just so you guys are aware, as a branch manager, there are no quotas, and you get 50% every single week for 3 months, which is so cool. And again, everything your office sells tacks on to help you get to 150K as quickly as possible. We want people to get to experience the sexiness of half baby, we like to call it. All right, half baby. So whatever you sell, you're like, boom, and I made half baby. So you'll see and hear that on the reports on Tuesday. But again, the playoffs really right now are just a big warm up, getting our foundations and preparing for the main event, which is in July with the Super Bowl. And so we want to help get you guys ready to absolutely dominate that. So one of my biggest goals today is to teach you guys how to sell $2,500 or more per week. Cool. I know that if you are able to sell $2,500 a week, every single week, consistently, you are going to see some very exciting things. I mean, if you guys even just look at the percentages, if you're making 20% commissions, y'all, that's a $500 paycheck. Okay. That's a fantastic paycheck. And you could earn that in like 2 or 3 days, not having to work, 5 or 6 days or multiple jobs. All right. If you're at 30%, dirty 30, you're making $750 a week selling 2,500. Okay. And then obviously when you're making half, you're making common checks, which is super exciting. And I remember when I first started, my manager sat me down. He's like, Kat, you got to sell $2,500 a week at a minimum, to be able to pay your bills and take care of everything. We had broken down my budget and stuff. And at that time, I was like, that sounded really big at my first week on the job, because my average order was like $140. My closing was like 40%. I didn't see great success like McCade or someone else right off the bat. Like I was a little bit slower. And so this was something that he showed me, and he said, well, let's just look at this. What does it take to sell 2,500, Kat? Like in all reality. And he's like, well, one, we want to get your average order to 250, which after he worked with me on a lot of the stuff, my average order jumped up from 140 to 4 something, then to 6 something. And then it ended up close to $800 that summer. And this is what this looks like. I don't do much sales anymore, so I get random like piece orders. So it's brought my average order down, but my average orders on demos is probably right around $900. This includes all my online orders that you see here on the top right. But these are the averages, guys. This is the national average as of 2 weeks ago. All right, it's probably adjusted by a couple bucks. National average 477, regional 510, divisional 524, office 500 or 509, and then your average order against that. And so if you're not close to the averages, which when I started, it was $140 was my average order. I was like, okay, I'm getting my butt kicked. What do I need to do to elevate this, right? And like, what's it going to take? And so first, what does it take to sell 2,500? Number one, it would be 10 orders a week, right? Having a $250 average order. And so he's like, Kat, even if you're only closing half the time, he's like, that means you need to do 20 appointments a week, which is what we mapped out with my schedule. I was like, okay, 20 to 25 appointments every week. Let's do it. I was going to be working full time or 2 or 3 other jobs if I wasn't doing this. So like, let me just treat this and do it full time. All right. So number 3, recommendation, approach, memorize word for word. This is crucial. And we're going to dig into that in just a couple minutes. Because that is the number one most important thing that you can do for yourself is have that sucker memorized and deliver it with confidence. Okay. Number 4, I don't know why this says closer. I apologize. But the close mastered word for word. If you get stopped in the middle of your demo because somebody has to leave on an appointment and they're like, oh my gosh, Grace, I'm so sorry, sweetie. I've got to head out. How much are these? Or I've got to get going. They just call me from the school. How much are they? Right. And they're like, interested. You can't just go into prices, like tell them the price without having any kind of comparison. So you want to know your stuff, because if they say, hey, I gotta go, I gotta go pick up my daughter, I'm so sorry, how much? You need to be able to go, oh, well, Miss Susie, have you looked at prices recently of fine cutlery? I'm like, oh, it's like anything. There's such a wide range of quality and prices. Cutco's top rated, so we only compare to the highest quality stuff. Cool. And so have you been to like Williams-Sonoma or Macy's or Sur La Table, like any of the kitchen stores or department stores? I'm like, cool. I'm like, so I don't know if you've heard of Wusthof or Schön. I'm like, they're German and Japanese. I'm like, those are the top rated in stores. And those brands, they have different sets that range in price. Kind of like BMW, how they have like 3, 5, 7 series, are all different prices. Same deal. All right. And so these are the top you're going to get in stores. They retail $3,000 to $4,000. You can find them on sale, especially during holidays, for $2,000 to $3,000, depending on the set. And by the way, even for that price, fantastic. I mean, they're the best you're going to get in stores. Now, there are some differences between us and them, right? And like, can you deliver with confidence and then go through the differences and then go into prices, right? And then write down the prices for them and say, so here's what it would be. So Miss Susie, you could pay for it all today. Obviously, you haven't had a chance to even use this stuff yet. I'm like, and I know we had to kind of rush through, which is no problem. Company actually allows you to put down 100% refundable deposit to actually just use the products for 3 weeks and see how you like it. So if you wanted to try that set, it would come out to like $348 would be your deposit. You would get it. You have 3 weeks to use it, abuse it, make sure you love it. Worst case, send it back. You got free Cutco for 3 weeks. You get 100% of your deposit back. Highly doubt that's going to happen. Everybody loves this stuff. So you can either call and pay the whole thing off, or you can do the easy pay. It's the same amount each month. And that would actually break it down to, and you write it all down. I'm going to show you guys that later. All right. But are you confident with your clothing? All right. Do you know your clothes word for word? Like, can you deliver that when you're with them face to face or going through? All right. It's okay at first to just read straight off of it. But that's the number one thing that my manager's like, learn your clothes, learn your recs. Those are your money makers. He's like, your phones, like just get skilled on the phone. But the fact is, you're going to be on the phone. So like, you're going to have your script in front of you, you're going to be reading. But the more and more live demos you do, and even if you're doing virtual demos, the more confident you are delivering, the closing, the recs, the better you're going to do. And the fact is, in-home demos are way more fun. I think they're way more fun. I think it requires more skill to be great on the computer and to keep engagement than it is if you're like at their house, and you're like, oh, chop this, oh, try this, and you can take some of your knives with you. So we're going to walk through this and so that you guys know, exactly what we're going to walk through. So the first thing we're going to dive into is recommendations. Okay. And recommendations are literally the gas to your fire. And so this right here is a flow. And I'm going to walk you guys through, and I'm going to give you the approach. But whether you're coaching someone else or even for you, there are 5 keys that make a very big difference that my manager taught me in terms of getting a lot of recs. Okay. Number 1 is you have to enroll your customer into your personal journey. All right. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment. It's not just about sharing your goals, but truly enrolling them into who you are and where you're going, and how Cutco can help you get there stronger, faster, more equipped, whatever it might be. Okay. The second thing is you have to plant seeds for the sponsorship in the beginning of the presentation. I typically do this as I'm enrolling customers because I had my goals, right? And so back 23 summers ago, we didn't have a digital presentation. Okay. We had a blue book, and in the front, I got page protectors, and I put the scholarship brochure, and I put about me. I made a collage, pictures of my family, and then I put like future goals and places I wanted to travel, and made a little collage about that. And I had my thermometer so they could sign my paper, and like they could see the progress for my goals and like contests going on. And we made a version of that digitally. One of my guys actually back in 2006, Tyler Tarr, his mom was in Kansas, his dad was in Georgia, he lived in Florida. And so he wanted to show them, and he's like, I've got a lot of friends and family out of town. And so he actually helped us develop the first version of the virtual demo back almost 20 years ago. And he did it on, I don't know, some platform that you could make like PowerPoint presentations online back in the day. I forgot the name of it. But we used this platform, and this was something that we had our goals, right? And so he made those goal slides, which many of you have, some might not. I'm going to share an example you guys can throw in here to help you guys on your presentations that you can steal stuff from, make things there. But anyway, just planting those seeds. And so that is in the beginning of the demo. 1 and 2 are as you start, right? Are you enrolling them into your journey? Sharing what you're up to, where you've been, where you're headed. Are you planting seeds for the sponsorship and how it's a free way to help? Hey, I'll let you know at the end how you can become a sponsor like Miss Susie. I'm like, don't worry, it's free. Just for introducing me to nice people like Miss Susie introduced me to you. All right. So we'll talk about that later. And then now at the end, when the presentation is over, it's not over until I've gotten all my referrals, but when I finish showing the actual product, now I'm going into step 3, which is you got to make them feel like a freaking rock star for doing the demo. Now, by the way, I actually, it didn't click for me until I went to SC1, my first summer conference, my first summer. And I talked to one of the Cutco sales professionals, and I'm like, oh, I get it now. Right. And so my manager would tell me, make him feel like a rock star. I'm like, I don't understand what he's talking about. And I'd just be like, "Thank you, you were awesome. Thank you for helping me," right? Like, when I started, but when I sat with one of the Cutco sales professionals and I said, "Hey, how do you" I know my manager had told me, like, it's really important if you wanna get a lot of recs to make them feel really good about doing the demo, right? Like, versus the sale or no sale or whatever. But to, like, do the demo, how do you do that? And she's like, "Oh my gosh, that's a great question." And so she was the one that showed me her thermometers where she didn't just have I had always learned about having a thermometer, but it was always just a sales thermometer. And she was like, she had a demo thermometer and she had a sales thermometer. And I was like, "Okay." And she said, "This is so huge and like such a great visual thing. At the end of the presentation, you've been showing them product for the last 20, 30 minutes, right? You chatted whatever 10, 15, 20 minutes in the beginning. You actually showed products now for 20, 30 minutes, maybe more. I don't know. Hopefully it's not taking you a lot more than that. And if so, I'll give you guys some tips today with that. But then now we're going into Rex. And she's like, all they're thinking about at this point when you go to ask for recommendations is who might buy this stuff, right? Like either they bought it and they're like, okay, who can afford this? Who can get it? Because they don't want to waste your time, right? And they're thinking of who's going to buy. Or they didn't buy and they were super apologetic. They were like, "Oh my gosh, Cass, I'm so sorry we couldn't get anything today, or I'm so sorry we couldn't get more. It's just that we have this and that going." And they feel bad they couldn't buy. And she said to me, she looked at me, she said, "Kathy, do you think customers are going to refer you to people if they feel they're not going to buy?" I'm like, uh, probably not. She's like, "No, heck no. If they feel bad they didn't buy, why would they recommend you to anyone they think wouldn't buy?" That means they're literally like referring their friend to also feel bad. Like if they feel bad they didn't buy, why would they give you someone that they think's not going to buy? So you can make them feel bad too? Hell no. So she was like, "You've got to get the focus off the product and back to how the appointment helps you." So, and she showed me this and she said, "So at the end of the presentation, once you finish, you figure out what they're going to buy or not buy or whatever. Now we go into this transition." And so she said, if they didn't buy at the end, you're like, "So Miss Susie, thank you again. So," I'm like, "Oh, how'd you like Cutco?" I'm like, "Could you see yourself getting some in the future?" And they're like, "Oh my gosh, for sure. I'm so sorry I couldn't buy today," whatever. I'm like, "Hey, no worries." I'm like, honestly, I was like, "I just want to say thank you so much for just taking time out to do the appointment. I know I thanked you in the beginning. I just want to say thank you again because if I do 20 appointments per week, Miss Sandra, I will hit my goal. And you helped me get one step closer. And I am so appreciative." I'm like, "Actually, we need to fill out my thermometer." And then I'd put their name or fill in a spot for a demo on my demo thermometer, right? And I with the sales, I'm like, "Don't even worry about that one." I'm like, "This is the most important one." And so we'd fill out their name or fill in the box for my demo thermometer. And they're like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "You got me one step closer." I'm like, "This is the most important thing. 20 appointments a week. That is my do or die." And I will hit my goals and I will be able to pay for school. So I just thank you again so much. I'm like, I know I said it. And I say it multiple times. I'm like, I know moms can be doing so many other things right now. And so I just appreciate you guys, or parents can be doing so many other things right now. Like, I just appreciate you guys taking time out to help me, towards my goals. And then actually, do you remember the sponsorship that I mentioned to you when we started? And I pull that back up and I'm going to show you guys visually in a moment, what this looks like. Um, but I said, "Do you remember the sponsorship that I had shared?" And like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Here's where you can really help me out." All right. And so you've got to be super excited. I'm like, "Don't worry, Miss Susie. I told you this part's free." I get paid every time I show, and like I'm gonna go into my approach, and you've got to nail your approach and explain the sponsorship, which guys, the approach I'm gonna give you now, if you don't have it already, has it woven in, and be excited, guys, because everyone can help you with this. If they liked you, they can help you with this. And they all know people. They might not know people that'll buy. All right. But by using this, it was amazing, guys. I was getting just like 3, 5, whatever, referrals randomly from people. And like once this really clicked, I ended up averaging 22 appointments per referral my first summer. And so I ended up getting a lot more towards the end because my first ones weren't as high. But it was just this psychology of like, okay, I need to get them off of the product and really back onto how the appointment helps me and make them feel like a freaking rock star for taking time to help me out. And if I do that, it's going to be really exciting. All right. One sec. So I'll show you guys visually what this looks like, but they need to feel great that they took time just to help you do an appointment. Everyone got that? And if they ended up buying, you know, she was like, hey, and I can share a video you guys can watch where I really walk through this visually. It takes about 30 minutes. I like just this part that I like dig into. So you guys can see that. But it was incredible. You know, she's like, the people that are going to buy that bought, like, be like, hey, I'm so excited for you. You're going to love your Cutco. I can't wait to see you continue growing your collection. I'm like, but honestly, Miss Susie, what I'm most grateful for is just you taking time out for me. I'm like, I know there's so many other things you guys could be doing right now. And this just helps me so much, you know, towards getting to my goals. You know, like I mentioned in the beginning, my goal is to do a minimum of 20 appointments every week. And if I do that, I will hit my goals for the summer. I will be able to take care of my school stuff. And so I just want to say thank you so much. And then do you remember that sponsorship? I'm like, here's where you're going to really help me. And then we go through and explain the rec approach and explain the sponsorship, which I'll show you. And then number 5, all right, is so important. And people miss this, is once they give you whatever they give you, are we actually brainstorming with them, okay, and offering more free stuff to get more, right? So if they gave me this, I'm like, oh, by the way, if we get to here, I'll actually buy you, you know, a pizza cutter, or I'll actually buy you a vegetable peeler. Or Miss Susie, if you get to a triple sponsor, I'll actually buy you that barbecue set for your husband that you really liked. And that would be someone that maybe got a homemaker or a gal. And I have space with my points, which we'll talk about as well. All right. But these 5 keys were so essential. And so it's like, okay, so how do we do this? How do we do this properly, right? The first thing is you have to make sure that you are really enrolling customers into your personal journey, okay? And so how do we get this done? These are 7 keys to enroll customers into your goals. So I want to encourage you guys to definitely write this down, screenshot it, whatever you need or want to do. But this right here makes a really big difference into how you get customers tied into you, okay? And so number 1, you want to share a little bit about you, okay? And this is about your past, where you come from, and present, you know, where you're going. You want to chat, and so you're like, hey, you know, here's a little bit about me, and like, you know, right now I'm at, you know, studying at Palm Beach Atlantic University, international business, and not exactly sure where I want to go, but I know that ultimately I do want to be an entrepreneur. You know, I do want to be able to have time and money freedom, to be able to spend time with my family, to be able to contribute, to be able to travel. I want to be able to make an impact. And so really excited about this job because I'm getting a chance to meet so many different types of people. Like the networking is amazing. I'm learning so much about myself and interacting with others. And they have a lot of really cool things, which I'll share in a minute, that can really help me for the future, you know? And so, you know, then I'd flip and I'm like, so these are some things. I'm like, so 1, resume boosters are huge, you know, and I talk about those, and resume boosters, scholarships. I talk about the internships and like what I could gain from it. And I'll show you guys a flow so you can see. And I actually have a video called like sharing impactful goals in 10 minutes or less, right? And how to really enroll your customers and go through this process. And so I'm going to share that with you guys as well. Once I've gone through, hey, Cutco has this and they have this, and this can help me with that. And like, you know, for me, I went out with my own business one day. And so they have this leadership academy and I can learn the foundations in business. Or maybe, you know, for one of my girls, like, I want to make a partner at the law firm. And so this is going to help me really stand out amongst other people, you know, have foundational entrepreneurial skills for them to know I can help run, you know, the firm. I can help grow the firm. I know how to acquire new clients. I know how to retain existing clients and make them long-term. I know how to get referrals, you know, and these are all skill sets that'll help our law firm. And so I'm excited to just like be learning those skill sets that I'm not necessarily learning in my law classes, you know, but they're more business building practices. And so just anything. Number 3 is like, what does Cutco offer that can help you? Is it going to help boost your confidence? What skill sets? Time management, organization, presentation skills, you know, being able to have people trust you. You know, if you're going into real estate, you know, like the likability, customer retention, if you're having your own business, you need clients, you need referrals. Like that's how businesses grow. And so being able to share the different things you're learning here and how that'll apply and can help you for the future. All right. Number 4 is sharing like your summer goal or your year goal. So for me, it was, I want to win a scholarship this summer. I want to get into the Leadership Academy. And so I'm really excited about standing out as a top performer to be able to have an interview to do that. Now, currently, we are actually in our playoffs, and that's number 5, right? And so talking about, I'm like, yeah, right now the entire nation is competing. I'm like, think about right now we have the Olympics, right? And so Olympics are coming up, and this is huge. And it's just really cool because we are, just like a sports team, right? Or think about like the Super Bowl and like the playoffs sitting up. Right now, the whole nation's competing during the playoffs and just building momentum and getting ready for the Super Bowl next month. And so my goal is to, these are some different levels of prizes that we have. And I'm working really hard to get to that $10,000 VIP night, Miss Susie. That would mean that I get to go to the champions reception with my boss's boss, the regional manager that runs almost half the country. And so he actually runs all of Colorado, Arkansas, Arizona, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas. And he is going to be at this champions reception. And so all I have to do is get to 3,000 or, I already got there, whatever it is. At 5,000, I was like, I get to go with all of our leadership team and our top performers. We're actually doing a really fun payoff at Splashtown, next week. And so I'm really excited about that, sharing whatever there, I get to 7,500. I get to also get some free Cutco to add to my collection. And then at 10,000, which I'm really excited about getting to by next Tuesday, I actually get the opportunity to go to this VIP dinner with a bunch of Hall of Fame representatives, our managers, and just getting a chance to rub elbows and get to know them, which is huge for like letters of recommendation, for mentorship, for skill set, and just opening different doors. So Miss Susie, if you want to just write me a check, I'll be like, right now I'm at 1,800. If you want to just write me a check for $8,000, I will definitely get there. You can ensure that I will be at that dinner. I'm like, no, I'm just kidding, but keep a lookout. I'm like, because if you do see anything that you like for you or for gifts, like if you have weddings, birthdays, holidays, there's Christmas and July specials that are coming out now. Any gifting that you might see, not only are you getting an unbelievable product, but it helps me out so much towards my goals. Cool. So keep a lookout. Like I said on the phone, I get paid just to do it. I'm like, but keep a lookout because if there's anything you see, I will make sure you get the best deals, for helping me with my contest. Cool. And then this is my sponsorship. This actually has nothing to do with sales. It's actually a free way to help, just like Miss Julie introduced me to you. And oh, look, there's your friend Sandra. And I think, do you know the Jones also? Be like, yeah. So freeway, I'll talk about this at the end. So don't worry about this now, but just know that my goal is to sell in every state in the US. And I want to dominate the Woodlands market. Here's my hometown or whatever yours is. Lastly, if you do end up seeing, and 6 and 7, some people have their slides interchanged. It doesn't matter where it is, but I just let them know. I'm like, if you do end up purchasing. So typically I did it as number 6. But I'm like, if you do end up purchasing, just know that also 10% of everything that comes in, my manager, we give back to charity. We're actually raising funds right now to get some medical equipment over to a hospital that we support in Haiti. And you can actually donate to them directly if you want. It's a tax write-off. It's a hospital we helped build, Cutco built after the big earthquake in 2010. And right now things are not so great down on the island, and they're needing help transporting medical equipment and supplies. And so they're looking for donations in medical equipment and medicines, and then obviously cash to be able to acquire more of those things. But yeah, if you know anyone that's in the medical field, anyone that's connected to anything having to do, whether it's gauze, pads, Band-Aids, medicines, tables, chairs, equipment, x-ray equipment. I mean, everything from the smallest to the biggest. Those are things that they need over there. So, but just know that it's also supporting a really kick butt cause. Cool. So I'm gonna pause there for a second because I'm gonna show you guys and walk through. And before we do this, all right, guys. So yeah, let's get all cameras back on. So one of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, and want to make sure that we have the sign up, and I don't know, McKade, if you can help me repost that first link I put again, just in case anyone hopped on late and they didn't have access to it. I want to show you guys is you are going to have access to this folder that has just tons of resources for you guys. Okay. And let me go ahead and share the folder here. So in this folder, you've got building a 300+ person attack list. This right here is huge. Like one of the number one things, obviously getting referrals, getting lots of them is going to build your business, but also going back and making sure we're capitalizing. One of the things I wanted to point out in terms of getting more appointments, and then I'll go back to like the referral stuff is this right here. Like we have this document in here that has a bunch of examples of like Facebook posts a family can post for you. Facebook direct message, what customers can post for you. Some examples. This is John Gradell's mom, when John started, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, what she put on there, personal Facebook posts and just different examples. Nextdoor app. Some neighborhoods have that, some don't. An email to teachers. An email that you can send to past customers to get more people. This is a phone approach to call back past customers. But this is just a great resource that's within the social media examples. All right. The other thing is the Facebook in it. This is a great document, and you guys, there's actually a video that goes along with it, and I'll also share that with you guys. I'm gonna right after when we're done, I'm gonna send an email, and it's gonna have the resources. You guys are gonna have the drive, access to the drive, and then just the things I would recommend most in terms of watching and looking at to help you guys grow your list. But I have a video of Lauren teaching this and how to build your list or using Facebook. If you do not have a Facebook, the number one thing I would do when we finish here today is to make a Facebook, because your target market is on Facebook. 30 to 60-year-olds, that is the demographic that's most on Facebook, okay? And so friends for parents numbers, parents and family friends, objections, again, different examples of posts and things you guys can put out. And so she walks through, and this is her document that she walks through in that video. So there's a, chicken list here. There's, I don't know why these won't open on their own. So just like helping you guys, I know Claudia helped with that at the event for those that were last week. Thought joggers, ways to collect more. But one of my favorite things is literally the creating a 300+ person attack list. And this is something that one of my girls, Janine, had done back in Florida. And she helped so many people create these huge attack lists going through this process. And so I have a video where I walk through this slower. I can include that as well if you want to watch it. But it has it goes through step by step, like going to school, looking at faculty and staff. This is something Casey Downing did, and he got some great appointments from teachers for messaging people back at school. It shows you messages that you can send to them. It goes through be a friendly neighbor, what to do. You can go on whitepages.com. You also have the Nextdoor app now, meeting your parents, going on their LinkedIn, or on their Facebook and looking at all the people they have, all the different contacts. And so you can go through, you can send messages to people on there. You can look up any teachers whose numbers you couldn't find, and you can even just message them through there. Going back and looking at previous experiences, coordinators, church directors, supervisors, like a lot of different things you guys can do here, going on Facebook. So I know some of you have done a workshop with me where I walk through this. Some of you guys have never seen this. So check it out, because there's a lot of good resources here. And then within your organizations, looking at church, clubs, volunteer organizations, bands, all these things here to be able to message. And again, there's examples on how to message everybody on there. So just some really great resources in there. With goals, these are and some different people's goals. Like there's different things you guys can put into your goals. There's slide decks, which I'll put in there. I'm actually putting in the chat right now. Put it here. This is a Google slide presentation. I'm going to show you guys, this is an example of one of Johnny's for during the push. Okay. And so this is in there as well. And so you can actually go here and go file, make a copy, entire presentation, put your name on it. All right. So you can put here, Kathy or Ashton or whatever, like just delete this and put your name. All right. And so let's say this is Keith's. And then you can just click make a copy and it's going to create a copy for you that now you can edit. Okay. So again, all you have to do is file, make a copy, entire presentation, rename it, and then put make a copy. And now that's yours. And so you can remove pictures of Johnny, just like he removed pictures of me when I started. You can change, keep what you want. Some of this is from mine. Okay. So this is when he first started, he took my example, which is in here, by the way. And he took this and he made a copy of it. And this was my slide deck. And it had, about me, and then how but if you look at my personal goals and you look at his goals, you guys see he kept some of the ones on the left he liked, some of mine. So he took those, looks like he took my Florida picture and put it on his travel stuff. That's where I'm from. But just, you guys can adjust that, steal what you want, keep what you don't, don't use what you don't want. But it's there, he kept the same resume boosters. This is great to talk about. As I shared with those 7 steps to enrolling customers, what does Cutco offer that's going to help you get to your goals stronger, right? Stronger, quicker, more equipped, whatever it is, standing out, whatever that is. So you've got, again, about you, personal goals, resume boosters, then he has the Leadership Academy, which there. And so the Leadership Academy, showing them like this was last year's curriculum, but just some of the different things you get to learn and be exposed to. And this is a free course. This is a free course, guys. The Leadership Academy is something people pay for outside of Cutco. You guys, if accepted into the program, get this for free, and sharing with them, like, this is the best, like, leadership, business, and communication class, along with foundations and wealth building, all tied into one that you guys are going to get to learn, and learning how to start a business. Okay. You've got, any of your summer wins, if you want to share those, summer goals and what you want to do. Dirty 30, if you have a certain, goal to get there by this day or whatever, and sharing that. This has different slides. This is more for Super Bowl, but they put here playoffs. Looks like they left it saying Super Bowl, but this is for the playoffs competition right now, right? And like the different levels that you guys have, which we just replaced the red spatula with the Splash Town, which I'm super excited. You have the sponsorship, so you can show, and you're like, this is a free way to help. I'll tell you about this later. This right here talks about, win a peeler. So he has that with sharing with people, and that I would use that more at the end. It's something that I had as like a bonus slide on my presentation. Okay. This is, I was looking for this. So this is, this actually has some on here from SC1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to steal his thing from here. Let me see if it lets me steal it. But that's a cool thing with like Google Slides and stuff that you are able to transfer. It might have to be on the same. Yeah, I have to be on Safari or Google or whatever on the same thing. But this is a cool thing for you guys to just play with and be able to create your own, so that you have that. All right. So you can copy pictures, or you can copy things from here. Let me see, if I haven't made a copy of this, I might not be able to take it. But if I do make a copy, oh, nope, there we go. That's fine. So now I can edit this here and put playoffs competition. So again, if you guys don't have this done, this is something I would do today, because it just creates such a stronger visual for your customers and what you have going on. All right. And so this is your current contest. This is last year's. I'm just going to delete it. And then people can help sponsor your conference. And something that I like to have is the actual conference sign up page on here. So I'll add that in here in the Fast Start goals. So this is going to be also in the copy of what you guys will have. And then I talked about my give back goal, and then I have the free way to help. All right. So you guys, again, you can make your own version of this. I just want to show you guys what those look like, and that you do have examples there that you can grab and adjust them to make it your own. But again, it just goes back to what we talked about earlier in terms of the different, excuse me. Thank you guys. So this here, back to the seven steps to enrolling customers, of making sure, like, does your flow hit this? You can do as little or as many slides as you want. You don't need to go crazy overboard, but are you sharing a bit about you, past and present? Are you sharing goals and dreams for the future? Are you sharing like the different things Cutco has that could benefit you and help you get there stronger, faster, or more equipped? Are you sharing like your summer goal, or maybe you have a year goal? Then sharing your current contest, which is the playoffs. All right. Then plant seeds for recommendations, with the sponsorship, how it's a free way to help, and pointing to anyone they might know, and then sharing the give back goal, whether in that order or flip-flopped. All right. So that's a really big thing we want to make sure that you guys are doing, which will heavily impact your business. And then the last thing I want to make sure everybody has, some of you might already have this, but I just want to share it. It is also in the drive that I showed you guys. So if you go into the recommendations folder, so again, if you did not sign in, making sure that you guys have done that, okay, so that you can receive this. But on the recommendations folder, this is here, the VIA, and I'm gonna share this right now because we're gonna role play this here in a sec. And I just want you guys to see what this looks like. All right. Thanks, Perla. Did it post? Make sure. Hold on, let me copy the link so y'all can see it. And let me post this here for you. All right. So you guys can go ahead and click that open. All right. I'll go ahead and share it here on my screen, but we're gonna want this, and I'm gonna call on you guys to help read through this, please. So if I can have, let's see here, who wants to get us off? McCade, go ahead and kick us off here, starting with the first part here, so you guys can all follow along.
So, Mr. Jones, how did you like my demo?
Oh, you did great.
Okay, so right over here, I really have like a very good thermometer that I have, and it's really to gauge where I am with my demos. And I mean, I like to fill it out whether you bought something or not, because I'm really worried about getting my demos completed. So thank you so much for, just helping me get one step closer to my goal of hitting those 20 demos this week in that push period. So if you could come over. Yes, ma'am.
Just because you've been here and you've been here a while, are you open? Can I coach you on just that opening right there?
Yes, please.
So don't be wishy-washy. Don't hope and wish. Don't talk about you before you talk about them. So you can say, oh, how'd you enjoy the demo? Did you like it? And I'm like, by the way, Miss Susie, I just want to say thank you so much for just taking time out for me before we've even gone back to thermometers or anything. Like, just, you've got to make him feel like a rock star just for doing the demo. I'm like, Miss Susie, thank you. Be like, high five. How'd you like it? How'd you enjoy? Or if you're not in person, I'm like, Miss Susie, virtual high five. I'm like, how did you enjoy the presentation? Did I do okay? Oh, you did great. And I'm like, awesome. I'm like, well, I just want to say again, I'm like, I know I said this earlier. I just want to say again, like, just thank you so much for taking time out for me. I'm like, I know there's so many other things you guys could be doing right now. I know how busy parents can be, at least from watching mine. And I just want to say, I really appreciate your time. I know time is really valuable. And, like I mentioned earlier, if I do 20 appointments a week, I'm going to hit my goal. And so I just want to thank you so much for helping me get one step closer. Be like, and actually I have my thermometer here, and I'm like, let's fill you in. I'm like, thank you. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, I'm like, no. I'm like, I said, the number one focus for me is doing 20 appointments a week. And so I know if I do that, I'm going to knock it out of the park. And so I'm just so appreciative for you helping me get one step closer. All right. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and fill out, and then I'll grab my thermometer, you know, and I'm like, I'll pull this up. If I'm in person, I'll have that, but I'm like, all right, Miss Susie, I'm like, we got to fill this in for you. Oh, this is a view only. I can't edit this one, but anyway, I would click on the top so I can fill in the color. I used to put their initials in it. I like putting their initials so they can see their initial right there. But this grid is like every demo that I want to do. And then the sales side, you know, I can edit that on that side there. All right. But anyway, going back to here. So just know like, oh, I'm worried about this or this. No, just like, thank you. Thank you. You're awesome. Like, I appreciate it. You know, thank you for helping me get one step closer. I'm like, this is the most important thing is just me completing 20 moments a week. I'm like, and I'm just so grateful for you taking time out for me because I know you could be doing so many other things. Cool. I'm like, so actually, let's fill out my thermometer. I'm like, and you know, put their initials in there or just fill it in. And I'm like, thank you again, you know, for helping me out with that. I'm like, actually, can you grab your phone really quick and answer that third question? So you can do the product. No, and I'm like, there's no need to make me sound better than I am. I'm like, I really want to get feedback so I can just keep improving. So just let me know when you're done with that real quick so I can explain the sponsorship. And then they do that. Okay. And I'm going to actually just show you guys because I want to show you with the visuals. Then here's where I would say when they're like, oh, okay, I'm done. And I'm like, all right, awesome. I'm like, well, hey, do you remember the sponsorship that I told you about earlier? This right here. And they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, don't worry, it's free. I'm like, but here's actually where you can really help me out. And then we go into here. I'm like, so there's one more very important part. And so I already said here's where you can really help me out. So I'm like, so Miss Susie, I get paid every time I show Cutco. And I can only show it to people I've been personally recommended to. And so I'm really trying to keep my schedule full in order to hit my goals. So what I need you to do is to go through your contacts and write down the first 2 to like 300 names that come to mind. And they're like, what? And I had 2 people in my career, only twice. And this is out of like, I don't know, 500 appointments. But I had 2 people. One of them was like, well, can I just print it? Like I have that, like, I can just print it off my computer. And my dad, and I was like, oh, okay. And another lady was like, can I just give you the church directory? Cause there's definitely at least 200 families in there. And I was like, sure. That's not normal. Okay. It was supposed to be a joke, but how you say it. And my manager taught me to say this in a way where it sounds like you're going to say 2 or 3, right? But you're going to say 2 or like 300 because it's made to be a joke. All right. And so it's the job is I get paid every time I show Cutco and I can only show people I've personally recommended. So the first thing is you're telling them the job. My manager's like, it's the job, the joke, the reminder. Everybody say that. The job, the joke, the reminder. All right. And so what's the job? The job is, oh, so Miss Susie, I get paid every time I show Cutco and I can only show it to people I've been personally recommended to. Right. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm working really hard to keep my schedule full. And then what? The joke. I'm like, oh, so what I need you to do is go through your contacts and jot down the first 2 to 3, 100 names that come to mind. They're like, what? Most people were like, what? I'm like, I'm just kidding. I'm like, by the way, 20 to 30 is fine. Actually, the app that you downloaded is designed to be a huge time saver for the both of us. It actually allows you to send the introductions straight through the app. So anyone you recommend, well, I'll see them on my side. And so that way you don't have to take time to like type them out, or email them. It's much easier. And Miss Susie, so it's a private app. I'll only be able to see the contacts you send me. Nobody else gets this. Like let people know that, this is just for me. You'll click the share button, okay to share. And then it lets you go ahead and choose those 2 to 300 people you wanted to give me, right? And I just like smile and like do a little eyebrow raise. And they typically laugh. And I'm like, and by the way, on this part, please go ahead and check anyone you think might be nice enough to see me. I'm not necessarily looking for people that you think would buy. All right, this is the reminder. Just people nice like you. And it's okay if they live out of state. Since I do appointments, I can do appointments online anyway. All right. I can't do appointments online anyway. So why is this important? Because a lot of sales companies, they have territories, they have restrictions. You can't sell out, like you're in charge of a certain territory. Where as a sales rep, you guys are allowed to sell anywhere the heck you want. The other thing is people are naturally thinking of people they see regularly. And so they might not think about their cousin who lives in New York, or their sister-in-law who lives in Florida or whatever when they're doing referrals. So you want to remind them of that. So you're like, hey, by the way, I'm not necessarily people that you think would buy, just people who are nice like you. And by the way, it's okay if they live out of state, since I can do appointments online anyway. And they're like, oh, okay. And so here's how the sponsorship works. every 50 sponsors I get, the company gives me $150 worth of Cutco that I can use to pay for books, you know, and other things at school. And so every 10 names someone submits gives me a sponsor. So if you submit 100 referrals, like my buddy Michael the other day got 120, and 3 of the other guys in our division got over 100, you know, last week. That's a 10-time sponsor. Cool. Let's say you got to 50 referrals. And I always like to point to people, and if they have, I'm like, and if you don't have one, you can say, hey, like my friend Johnny, he actually got 60. That would be a 6-time sponsor. You know, let's say you got to 30, like Christina or Constantine, then that would be a 3-time sponsor, 20 a 2-time. And even if you only got to 10, like Benji John's there, you'd still become a sponsor. And again, when I get 50 sponsors, I get the $150 award. All right. So check off as many nice moms as you can, and let me know when you're finished before you click the share button. All right, because I have a way you can get some free Cutco. And so take as much time as you need, because I have to fill out some paperwork, and this is like the most important thing for me anyway. Cool. And then I'm going to just start working on other stuff while they do that. Let me pause really quick. I know I was going to have you read. I just kind of took over. But I want to, from those who have been doing this for a while, and just listening to me walk through that part, what do you notice different from when you're doing it or when I'm doing it? Any feedback, any things, like what did you notice? McCade, you can go first. Anything that you notice?
I mean, definitely like how you said, you know, talk about them before you talk about you. That definitely stuck with me. That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, just kind of, you know, like your tone and the speed of how you're talking, because like whenever you get to a part that's very, very important to you and you want to get that point across, you slow down and you actually get into the actual information that you need to get out.
Absolutely.
And that's what I really liked.
And the excitement. My manager's like, this needs to be the most exciting part of your presentation. Like you're like, oh, Miss Susie, look at that. Oh, da, da, da. Like, and if you're more quiet, all right, Zaman, I want to see your eyebrows going. I want to see those smiles. And you're like, oh, Miss Susie, like you gotta look at this, like, oh, this helps me out so much. Like you've got to use that. Got it? So if you are someone who's more introvert or more quiet, those nonverbals better be crushing it. All right. And that's why I think it's so important too. And it's harder. The phone is the hardest demo, y'all. Just so you know. It is the hardest, and you have to be the best skilled to get good results. Next is video. All right. Video, again, you have to, even you heard Angela this morning, she's like, it's harder. If you were on the workshop, it's harder because you're not in person. You're not getting a chance to have that same, so like you have to like make sure you're on video if you're doing a virtual demo so they can see you if you want to maximize results, right? And you're like, oh, Miss Susie, this, and like, oh, because even if you're more quiet or whatever, you're like, oh, this is the most important thing. I'm like, oh, this really helps me. And like smiles and eyebrows up and like excitement. Got it? And then obviously, if you're naturally more like, ah, then that'll come out, you know, like Jackie, we got to tell Jackie when you got to tone it down a little bit. No. And so you put your personality, you know, have fun with that, but just know that like they've got to feel your excitement. Guys, this is a free way to help. Like, well, how the hell? Like, all they gotta do is click a button and they can give you like 200 people, you know? So I'm like, Miss Susie, I'm like, this is the easiest part. This is a free way to help, and like have fun with them. All right. So again, you start it, you're like, hey, you know, second. So when you start off, sorry, and you guys transition, you're like, oh, Miss Susie, you know, how did you enjoy the presentation? Like you guys finish up and I'm like, oh, how did you enjoy the product? How did you like the presentation? You know, guys are like, oh, you did great. I'm like, well, I just want to say thank you so much, you know, and just make them feel like a freaking rock star for taking what? Time. Everyone got that? For taking time to do the appointment. And it's like, I know you could be doing a million other things. And I just want to really say, I appreciate you taking time to help me today. And actually I have I'm like, we get to fill out one of my thermometers, you know, and just very positive, very upbeat, very excited when you're going through that. And so you're like, hey, let me put your name down. Thank you for getting me one step closer, and reminding like, what's your number? Is it 10 a week? Is it 20 a week? Is it 30 a week? Is it 25? Like pick a number. Mine was in the summer I wanted to do 20 appointments a week. Right. And so I wouldn't promote less than 10. But I would say, hey, I want to do 10 appointments a week. I know if I do that, I'm going to be able to save up cash that I need to take care of books and stuff at school, have a little financial independence from the family. and be able to keep advancing with the company. And so just thank you so much for taking, excuse me, time out to do that appointment. All right. So make them feel great. Go back, fill out the stuff. That's a visual. That's a bonus tool that I learned at SC1, is having them fill that out. And then, and then you explain the job, the joke, the reminder, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, so I get paid every time I show Cutco, and I can only show, like, even if you just hit those points, like that is what you're asking: the job, the joke, the reminder, and explain the sponsorship. Cool. So if you don't remember anything else, make them feel like a rock star: the job, the joke, the reminder, and explain the sponsorship. Everyone got that? And then after, when they're done, we're going to brainstorm and offer free stuff for more. All right. So I made them feel like a rock star. We filled out my thermometers. What's the job, everyone? I get paid every time I show Cutco, and I can only show people I'm personally recommended to. Cool. Let them know, hey, I'm working hard to hit my goals. What's the reminder? The joke. Oh, so Miss Susie, and it's what I need you to do. Everyone got, oh, so it would be great if you could cut out all the wussy words. All right. And I'll love McCade. I'm gonna call him out. Even it's like, oh, I got like no wussy words, no wussy words. Totally confident, totally comfortable. That is so important. By the way, this is my boss telling me, Kat, don't be a wuss. I'm like, okay. I was like, so it'd be great if you could maybe give me some people. He's like, cut that shit out. He's like, if they had fun with you and they liked you, why would they not introduce you to everyone they know, right? If you like shared your goals and they were like inspired or impressed with you, like why would they not want to like introduce you to everyone they know? He's like, in the beginning, like they should want to adopt you or like introduce you to their nephew or son or daughter, like that's what he said to him. Like, okay. He's like, so just assume they freaking love you, And so at the end, when I'm asking for, I'm like, oh, my student. So it's like what I need you to do. That need, not what I want, what would be nice, what would be great. And by the way, it's a joke. All right. So you're going to laugh with it. You're like, oh, Miss Susie, what I need you to do is grab your phone so that you can go through and you can go ahead and select the, 200 or 300 people that you think would be great. And they're like, and I'm like, I'm just kidding. I'm like 20 to 30 is fine. And I'm not looking for anyone, again, you think is going to buy. You can tell me those later. I'm like, right now I'm looking for every nice mom. I'm like, because here's how the sponsorship works, and again, not like anyone you think would buy, the reminder, right? And then I'm like, so here's how the sponsorship works. So when I get 50 sponsors, right, I get a $150 award. And I always love to show my visual. So it's always a positive thing when you guys can show them, they can see this right there. And I'm like, yeah. So when I get 50 sponsors, I actually get a $150 award that helps pay for books and different things. And so all you have to do to be a sponsor is just submit 10 names. So like my friend the other day, actually there was like 4 or 5 people in my division. They got over 100, Michael got 120. And so that would be a 10-time sponsor or a 12-time sponsor, right? My friend Johnny, he got 60 on his appointment. And so that would be a 6-time sponsor. Let's say you got to 30 like Constantine or Christina did, you'd be a 3-time sponsor, 20 names submitted like Claudia would be a 2-time. And even if you only get to 10, like Benji, you'd still be a sponsor. And when I get all 50 sponsors, I get that award. Cool. Now, what did you guys notice there? What was there with the verbiage when we talked about that? When you explain the sponsorship, anything stand out? And even if you only get to 10, everyone got that? That was something my manager said too, the psychology of that. Like that's the low. It's not like, oh, could you get to 10? That was like a shitty demo. I remember starting to get pissed when I only got 10. I'm like, they didn't like me, like, what the heck? So because we know they have more than 10 people on their phone. All right. But again, if they're, and again, most people are just thinking about, okay, who's going to buy? And that's where you just keep working on like at the end, that transition. And the more multiple times that you reiterate, like, hey, again, doesn't matter if they buy or not. I'm just looking for nice people that can help me hit my goals. And so, but that even if you only get 10, cool, making sure that that is there. And then letting them know you have a way you can get free stuff. Now they go and they start going through. All right. Average person usually submits around 5 to 7. Some less, some more. If you did a great job, they might go ham on it. Phenomenal. But for me, I found the average person typically wrote 5 to 7 people down. If I did a good job, if I didn't do a good, I mean, they do, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. So now when we're done, no matter what, I'm like, hey, McCade, thank you so much. Like before you click the share button, can you tell me how many it says on the bottom of the blue box? I'm like, okay. And they say, so let's say they said to you, oh, I've got 7. What's your reply? Anybody?
Try to get to 10.
Yeah, you're just literally going to say, oh, okay, awesome. I'm like, you're only 3 away from another sponsor. I'm like, do you think there's any way you could think of 3 more? Just nice people that might be willing to see me so that you can be a sponsor, right? Let's say they were at 13. They're like, oh, I wrote down there's 13. It says that there's 13. I'm like, oh, awesome. I'm like, thank you so much for my sponsorship. By the way, I'm only 7 away from another sponsor. I'm like, do you think there's any way that you could think of 7 more people? There's nice families to check off who might be willing to see me so that you could be a double sponsor of mine. And here is where you can offer free stuff. This is something that Johnny actually has on his. He actually has like when a peeler, or actually he has this for having them call people, which is awesome. That's more advanced. I'm going to teach that actually at our team meeting tomorrow. But this right here, are you brainstorming? This is reminding them, hey, I'm not looking for anything good buy, just nice people like you who would listen. And then who do you know that? All right. And so one of my favorite things to ask was, who do you know that won't buy, but they're super nice mom like you, right? Who do you know that doesn't hate college kids? Who do you know that works and eats, right? These were some funny ones that made them laugh. And then I'd be like, no, but seriously, I'm like, and then who do you know that loves to cook? Who do you know that has a big family? And like, you're going to give whatever thought joggers. Maybe you need more daytime people. Maybe you're trying to meet more engineers or people that live in this area or whatever. Like, you can be as specific as you want to be. Okay. And this was something that I learned. And I don't think he has here. This is the Help Me Sell and all the states. That was something Nadia had put together some years ago. This Who Do You Know sheet is something one of my guys, Donovan Taylor, back in Miami over a decade ago made this, 2012 or 11 is when he made this. And Donovan was somebody that was not getting a lot of referrals, and the referrals that he was getting were not that exciting. And he's like, I want better people. He grew up lower income in a lower income area of Miami that's probably equivalent of the 3rd or 5th ward, somewhere in the middle there. And he's like, I don't have like these middle upper income, like nice homeowners and all this. And I said, well, then get them. I said, this is a skill to learn. And y'all, this is a skill that will serve you for a lifetime. I said, if you don't have what you want, ask for what you want. And I said, why don't you make a sheet? I said, I always brainstorm like, the things that I wanted. I wanted more daytime. Who do you know who works from home? Who do you know who owns their own business? And I'd ask for different types of people that I wanted to meet. I said, just do that. And he's like, okay. So he took it to the next level, y'all. This is his. He had 2 sheets. This is one of them. I don't have the other one, but I'll tell you, the other one was split into 2 parts. The first one is this right here. And this is what he made. And I asked him when I moved to Texas if I could steal this and share it, which he was like, that's fine. And I changed the private schools to schools from here. But this is what he's like, Ms. Jones, real quick. So like after they submitted, or they were going to, whatever they gave you first, great, thank them. And then you do general thought joggers. And you're like, oh, and then who do you know who won't buy, but they're super nice? Who do you know that, works and eats? Who do you know that doesn't hate college kids? And then going through, and then I'm like, oh, and then Miss Susie. And he would pull this out. And he would say, just real quick, who do you know that knows everyone? Who do you know that's super nice? Who do you know that loves to cook? Who do you know that has expensive taste? Who do you know that entertains a lot? Who do you know that loves to shop? I'm like, as I say any of these, anyone that pops up, go ahead and jot them down. I'm like, who do you know that just redid their kitchen? Who do you know that gives the most to charity? Who do you know that owns a luxury car, owns their own business, or loves to ski? Who do you know that owns a boat? And this is as fast as he would go. He would just rip through and just, say all these questions while they were kind of thinking. And always he was like, they were, oh, and they'd add more people, and then his other sheet, the top half said, who do you know that is and he had architect, engineer, surgeon, da, da, da. And I said, why did you pick these? Like when I was with Donovan, I said, why'd you pick these? He goes, oh, I just Googled jobs that make over $100,000. And so he's like, I want to meet more, middle upper income, and I want to meet business owners. And I said, cool. I said, great job. And so he put all these different professions, and it also said who do you know that owns their own business. And then the second part of the sheet said, who do you know that lives in, And then he put neighborhoods he wanted to get into. It said, who do you know that lives in the estates of Pembroke Pines? Who do you know that lives in the Coral Gables on the water? Who do you know that lives in Pinecrest? And so it had like certain areas and then also specific neighborhoods that he was trying to get into. And guys, let me tell you, he blew up. Like Donovan worked with me, paid Cutco through college, paid veterinary school. But he worked with me for over 3.5 years, finishing up his undergrad and going into his other program. And he was someone that was ready to quit after his first month because he's like, I don't think I can do this. And like, he was just, his background, he was lower income, Haitian family. And he's like, I just don't have a lot of resources, and I said, then you go get it. And that is a life lesson. We're not, we're not all born into certain families. We don't all have access to this and that, but we can always go out there and get it. And that's up to you. And he's like, you're right. And he did. And he built a dynamic business. His average order was well over $600 while working with us. He averaged over 30 referrals per appointment. He had tons of great leads. But he built that. He didn't have that to start. He built that through networking and through asking. All right. And again, that is an incredible skill set that you guys can bring to companies and to people, is the ability to help build business, get referrals, get the right ones, ask for what you want, like learning that. You will bring so much value to an organization doing that. Cool. So that's a tip from one of my best referral getters. And he trained a lot of people back in 2011. He had that who do you know sheet. That was his, except the private schools were Miami schools. And then the other sheet, because he would just pull it up and you could have it on your slideshow for the end when you're brainstorming, pull it up. And then he had, who do you know that is, and he had all the different professions and people he wanted to meet. And then who do you know that lives in, and he had different areas. Cool. So do that. You stop complaining about what you don't have and go get what you do want. It's really exciting when you do that. And all my people who have done that, like absolute dynamic business. James Rushing, he was going to A&M and he's like, I want to meet people in oil and gas. I want to meet people, whatever. That's what he was studying. And whether it's people like maybe you're trying to make a decision on what to do and you're like, I don't know if I want to go this route or this route, ask to meet those people. Who do you know who's a financial analyst, or who do you know who's an investor like this, or who do you know who's a real estate investor? If that's something you're interested in, meeting more people like that, right? Who do you know that owns commercial real estate? Like real estate really interests me. And like, I just want to learn more about it. Like you're going to have amazing, fun conversations that you are excited about. And you are also going to get to meet some unbelievable people. Don't leave your business to chance, was the number one thing my manager told me. He said, figure out what it is you want, who you want to see, who you want to spend time with, and ask for them. And once you meet one, they know more of those people. All right. And so that was a really big tip that really helped transform my business. Okay. So again, to wrap up this section with getting more appointments, number one, are you guys utilizing your resources with social media? Okay. So making sure, like, if you don't have a Facebook, put on your to-do, create a Facebook today. Go through the resources. I'm going to email you right after we finish up. You'll have it by this evening. Go through those resources. And I'll have in the email a couple links to some of the videos, but the Facebook in it, how to maximize that, the different tips on how to build your 300+ person attack list, just phenomenal resources to help keep growing that and building that. Okay. You want to keep building that initial list and don't lose sight of that, because that can always help grow everything else so much more. All right. But then with your actual appointments, are you actually taking time to make sure you, number one, know your stuff? Okay. So are you enrolling them into your personal journey? Are you planting seeds for the sponsorship in the beginning? Are you making them feel like a rock star at the end for doing the demo? Focus off the product and back. Are you nailing your approach and explaining the sponsorship with excitement? Because it's the most exciting part of the presentation and it's free for them to help you. And then are you brainstorming and offering more free stuff? Okay. And then again, the steps, and I gave you guys the goals. Do you have your goal slideshow updated? If not, I would also put that on your to-do. Create a Facebook, update slideshow. So that way you have that to show, because those visuals are magic sauce. All right. And if you're like, well, I don't do video presentations, you should start. Invest the $15 a month that Zoom costs to have the unlimited time, so it doesn't cut off, because the free one is only 40 minutes. It's $15 a month, y'all, or $16. I think it's $15.99. $16. That's $4 a week. And you're going to get way more referrals, better sales, connections, all the It's less than one demo a month, y'all. And you can cancel at any time. You don't have like a subscription that you have to keep or a 1-year contract or anything like that. But all of our top guys utilize that for when they have to do virtual demos so they can be most impactful and then get in front of people. All right. And so what I want to do real quick, I want to finish that sheet. Walking through the different resources that were on here. So yes, you got the VIA, recommendations approach, but there's more on there besides what we just walked through and read, okay? So you've got the main approach, but once you guys finish the main approach and role playing, are we having them send a heads up text? All right. This is huge. You can even do it from the app. You can take a selfie with them. You can send them a picture of you, whatever you want. So they can introduce you. This is huge. The best 5 was something that my manager was like, you want to run a great business. This can go either way. I was talking to one of my girls the other day, and even people that were like, oh, they got 100 referrals. They got 300 referrals. And I was like, that's great. But it also kind of scares me. Like, do they know who their top people are? Because if they don't, they can end up in a really with a really bad business, because if they got 300 referrals, well, guys, everybody knows people just like them, a little bit above, a little bit below. And how about if they're seeing their friend who lives in the trailer, or their single buddy in an apartment, or like 300 people, there's a lot of different types of people. So if you get 100 referrals, you get 30 referrals, you get 50 referrals, it doesn't matter. Like, are you asking, hey, Miss Susie, if you were me, who would be the first 5 you'd want to show? I want to know from every list, who are the top 3 to 5. If it's a list with 30 or more, I definitely want to know at least the top 5, if not more, 5 to 10 people. But who are their focus people? I'm like, if you were me, or if I was your daughter, who would you go see first? And find out about them, y'all. Because as you get busier and busier, if you have 20 appointments in a week, and you're averaging 20 or 30 or more referrals per head, which there are many people in our division doing that and more. If you did 20 appointments and you got 20 referrals, that's 400 new people. But next week, you can only do 20 appointments. I want to know from those 20 I did, who were their top 5? I want to call those top 100, right? These 20 people, their top 5, those 100 are the first 100 I'm calling to book my 20 for next week. I don't want to just start ripping through the 400 leads from last week, because I don't know who I'm getting. I rather rip through 100 of my best people, because my 20 people last week said, hey, here are my best 5. Here are my best 5. Oh, I definitely go see her. Oh, Suzanne loves to cook, loves all the night. Oh, Julie and Johnny throw the best parties. Like, they tell you about who the top 3 to 5 are. And if you do that, you're going to build a strong, dynamic business. All right. So get notes for them. There's customer objections. I'm not going through that right now, but like mastering objections in closing, in phones, in recs. This is one of the most important things that you can do. Excuse me one sec. All right. Is going through these objections, okay? Like learning how and understanding the process of understanding where they're coming from, but however, talk logically and ask again. So they say like, oh, I'll give them to you later. I'm like, okay, awesome, Miss Susie, totally. You could give them to me later. I'm like, but just so you know, I actually only get my sponsorship if I get 10 while I'm here. Like, if there's any way we can just get like your top 10, and then when you have time later, you can definitely upload more. And they're like, oh, okay, right. And so just bringing it back circle, or hey, can you call me later? Can you call me tomorrow? I'm busy right now. Oh yeah, Miss Susie, absolutely. I can give you a call tomorrow. But I'm like, reason I was calling, I'm actually working super hard to hit my goal. I'm like, when's the best time to catch you? I'm like, oh, actually, I have an opening at that time. I could do that. And you learn how to like see where they're coming from. Like if someone says, oh, I need to ask my spouse, you're not gonna be like, what, you can't make decisions on your own? No, you're like, oh, I totally get it. Most couples like to make decisions together. I'm like, and actually that's why our company has our 4-part forever guarantee. And so it's our money back guarantee. I'm like, it actually gives you guys 3 weeks. So you can put down 100% refundable, Miss Susie, and get it. And you guys have 3 weeks to use it together, discuss it, and make a decision together. And worst case, send it back. You get 100% of your money back. But most people, they love it. So you can call and pay it off, or you can use our easy pay, and we show them that, right? And oh, okay. I'm like, so I'm like, it sounds like probably buying it all today, probably not the best decision then if you want to discuss with your spouse. But you could do the deposit. That way you can get it, try it out for 3 weeks. You guys can use it together and then decide. Would that work better? Okay, awesome. You know, we go there and then just that's a, you know, a workshop for another day, but understanding that objection cycle, right? And the process of that. And so a lot of these, they have it built in when you guys study those and work to master those. All right. Big things I talked about already, but I just want to make sure you guys have here. A basic thing is at the end of every presentation. Trevor or McCade or whoever wants to read, if you can read this out loud, we should be doing this at the end of every presentation from now till forever. It's going to help you guys have so much more business as long as you have a Facebook created, right? But we're all going to have one today. So Trevor, go ahead and read that, or McCade, whoever jumps off first. Someone? No one?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
It's just mainly, if you're hearing drizzling outside, it's probably raining. It's mainly just reading the script, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, girl.
Well, Miss Jones, I have found that a lot of people have more friends on Facebook than on their phones. So I'm trying to work on my social media marketing and advertising too. So I would love, and I mean really absolutely duper love it, if you wouldn't mind putting a post up for me, introducing me to your Facebook friends. I'll send you a template of what you would post, and I'll also send you a photo of me so they'll know who I am but my face, so you know, no one will be confused. So all you'll do is post a photo and a template as a introduction of me, and it will say if anyone is willing to help me out, they can they could like or leave a comment down below. Would you be nice enough to put that post up? It would mean absolutely the world to me.
No problem, sweetie.
Great. I'll send you a friend request right now, and I'll send you the template and the photo included. You can also tag me in the post with the @ since we're friends. Well, I wouldn't say friend. You know what I mean. By the way, by the way, if there's a time where I'm available, I'll be able to. Would it be okay if I send a message to some of your Facebook friends introducing me to them? Is that cool? Because I want to get your permission so they won't be like, who's this? Is this a scam? Is this anything going on? You know, just for safety and make sure they're at ease.
Yeah, no problem. All right. And I want to say this, you sound amazing. I want to make sure you guys don't add too much, because sometimes you can overdo it and you're overselling, you know?
Yeah.
So keep it really simple. So you're like, oh, is it okay if I send a message to you introducing I'm like, is that cool? They're like, yeah. I'm like, beautiful. And that's that. And if you wanted to say, you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to get permission, first, great. But just don't over, like these, we just know they were, keep it simple. Cool. That other document I gave you guys, and thank you, Sydney, you sound great. The other document I gave you guys, that's in the folder, has a bunch of different Facebook examples. This just has 2 here. There's a fast start example here of like, hey, my son just started working with Cutco, working hard, Then there's a student example here. There's a private message example. There's a non-student example. So you guys can see that. And then if let's say you've already seen people, right? And you never asked them to put a Facebook post, you guys can go back and ask people to post for you. So you're like, oh, hey, Jane, hope all's well. I'm like, would you mind putting a Facebook status up for me? I'm like, it would really help me out with some of the goals I'm working on. I would send you a template of what to post and a photo. Would you be nice enough to put that up and mean the world? They're like, yeah, sure, no problem. Hold on. And then messaging family, friends, or past customers to get permission to private message their friends. So again, if you're messaging them, you can go back and you're like, hey, I hope all is well. Hey, Auntie, I found a lot of people have more friends on Facebook than their phones. I'm trying to work on social media. Is it okay if I send a message to your friends? So same thing you would have said in the demo, but you didn't know before and you didn't do it. You guys can do that. So moving forward, always ask for a Facebook post at the end of the demo and permission to send messages. Send them a picture of you. Make sure you're Facebook friends so they can tag you, and comment thanking them for their support on the demo. Every day when you have demos, like just commenting on people's posts. At the end of every week, post a thank you to everyone who helped you that week with a photo and tag all your customers. You're like, hey, thank you for everyone who helped do an appointment this week. And by the way, whether they bought or not, I tag everybody. And just want to say thank you so much for helping me get one step closer to my goals. Just working really hard to dominate, or whatever you want to say. But it makes a really big difference. All right. So we are going to do a quick role play and grab, you can take a minute if you want to grab a snack, grab water, use a toilet, and then with your partner, just to go through that VIA recommendations approach. We're going to go through like 2 times each, and then we're going to switch gears and go into phones right after. But you guys have right now, stretch, use a tool. Don't forget, the more repetition, the more comfort, the more confidence that you're going to have. Ooh, yeah, and just delivery, right? And again, being confident and asking for referrals, super huge. All right. And so smile, be excited. I see so many people, like one of my top girls, Angie, she was like, I don't understand why I don't get more recs. I don't understand why I don't get more recs. And I remember going, Angie, ask me for recs. And this was like one of my like super like fun and like good personality. And when she went to ask for her, she was like, Miss Kristen, and it's like she turned into a different person, like literally. And I was just like, I watched her do it, and then I looked at her and I go, you swap personalities on me. I said, I was talking to this girl, Angie Gonzalez, that was like super sweet and super excited and really confident, excited about her art and what she was going to learn from Cutco and all this stuff. You did the demo. And now at the end, you're like, so there's one more thing. And you became this like scared, not confident. Like literally, I'm like, what just happened? Is what I'm thinking as a customer. I said, why the hell would I refer you to people? That felt really weird energetically. I go, and so you can't change your demeanor. If you're going to change it, it's to get more excited when you're asking for referrals. Okay. Not less excited or weird or unconfident. And she was like, I'm doing that. And I'm like, yeah. And I like recorded her, and that's it, guys. She fixed that. Her next demo, I think she got 20 something referrals, or like, I was just like, it's all here. I said, and you're not expecting the recommendations, or you feel like you're bothering, or like, oh, I feel like I'm taking too much time. These are things she was thinking. I said, and that's getting in the way. If you connect with them in the beginning and they love you, like they want to introduce, they want to help you any way they can. And especially if they couldn't buy, they're going to give you tons of people. But regardless, we got to get them off the product and back onto like how much the appointments help you. And that's how you guys will thrive. Okay. And so really important there. So we're going to switch gears into phone. So we spent most of our time today on getting more appointments, right? And like you can use Facebook, you can do all these things, showing you different resources to help expand your list, how to and get more referrals. Why? Y'all, this is the gas to your vehicle. Okay. I don't care how sexy your car is. You'll always hear me say that. You're not going to go anywhere without gas. You need people to see. Got it? You can be a great closer. You can be great at this, but if you don't have people to see, you're screwed. So my manager said there's in order 3 things that you need to get down. These are the 3 legs of your stool. Number 1, rocking referrals. So first thing you need to master, because again, without gas, you aren't going anywhere. Number 2 is actually phones and being good on the phones. Because if not, you're going to burn through your leads and not get appointments. And so you need to be able to connect, start building rapport, build urgency. And it's not just about booking appointments. So one, like, especially when you're calling referrals, like there has to be likability factor, right? That's coming in. And so that's really important as you guys are getting referrals. But then when you're calling people, they need to feel really comfortable with you on the phone. And so like, do we make them smile or laugh? Do we start sharing goals when we're on the phone with them? Like this is really important when you guys are going through. But then it's not just about that, but like, are we building urgency and firming it up properly? So I'm going to show you guys this in a second, because this was something that I got really good at. And I was not. I used to be super scared of the phone. I looked at the phone like it was like, I don't know, this crazy monster. And my manager was like, Kat, your phone is literally like your ATM machine. And the more buttons you press, the more money you make. I was like, okay. And I remember that shift. I'm like, all right. He's like, but when you get on the phone, like your voice, like you gotta hike it up. I naturally have a very low voice. And so he was like, you can't, like, and if you talk to me in the morning, you know, John can tell you, it sounds like you're talking like a 60-year-old man. I'm like, hello, and I'm like super hoarse. Sounds like I smoked for like 50 years of my life, but I have nodes on my vocal cords. I used to sing and they got all screwed up in college, and I have a very hoarse voice. And so this was when I was 19, it was like this. And my manager was like, you got to make sure you use your head voice. You got to hike it up. Gentlemen with low voices, super important. Ladies with low voices like me, super important. Because if not, you just sound like some telemarketer, someone trying to sell them something. You want to sound like a young, nice student, or like a Girl Scout selling cookies, or, you know what I like? They're like, the sweeter and nicer and less scary you sound, the more help you'll get, you know? And I was like, okay. He's like, especially when you're calling people you don't know, they can't see you. So on the phone, they make up whatever image of you in their head. And so your delivery, all right, we can't forget communication is the words, then it's the delivery, right? The tone, the speed, the loud, soft, whatever, all the things that go with that. And then the nonverbals. That's communication as a whole. Well, guys, on the phone, we lose the nonverbal aspect. Again, why phone demos are the hardest, and require the more skill, because you're having to make up for tonality and nonverbal. You have to make up for nonverbals with tonality. And so you have to be even more excited, more engaging, because they can't see you. And if you can't see me, I could be like, oh, you look really good. Did I really mean that? Well, if you saw my eyes, I said, you look really good. All right. Like, no. Versus like, oh, you look really good. Right. Like your nonverbals say different things. So he really worked with me on that. He's like, one cat, you got to hike it up. All right. All the guys I've coached, I'm like, I just want you to pretend like I just kicked you in the groin. You're like, you need to sound pre-puberty, like you're 10 years old when you're calling referrals. You should not be like, hey, this is McKay. And you'd be like, oh, hey, Miss Susie, how are you? You know, oh, this is McKay Massengale. How are you? Like, oh, actually, the reason I'm calling, just high pitch. And it might feel silly, but I promise you, you're going to get a lot more demos and a lot more people that are going to help you. So hike it up. All right. And let me tell you, some of my champions that worked with me for 6 years, 8 years. I know some people are coaching with like Randy Excellent. Like that, if you see him, that might be a big, scary dude. He's like 6'4", a big guy. And he looks like he's a linebacker from some football team, or like, I don't know, a center basketball player. But he can look a little bit scary walking up to your house. All right. But he smiles really big, you know, he's talking, he's like, hey, how are you? You know, just really sweet voice on the phone. And he knows like that's super important to make sure that we're establishing comfort right from the get-go. Right. So just know that. And I just want you guys to understand, like, the phones are like, that matters. Okay. That when you guys are going through. So like, are you, I used to hear smile while you dial. All right. Everyone smile. Everyone do this. All right. Everyone do it. All right. I can see you. All right. Now I want you guys to say out loud in like your meanest voice. All right. Even though you're muted, it doesn't matter. I just want you to say it. I just want you to be like, I don't like you. But like, do it like this. I'm going to actually and go, I don't try to do it. Try to do it right now. Try to be like, I don't like you, but do it like this. Try. Go. Try. Anyway. All right. Your voice does something different. Everyone get this? All right. So like literally right now, I'm like this, and I'm like, I don't like you. And I'm like, I don't like I can't do it. I'm like, I don't like you, Trevor. Like your voice doesn't, your vocal cords do different things. So know that that's like literally anatomy. This is not a psychological thing. So when you're smiling, you sound different. So smile while you dial. I love it, Perla. So make sure when you guys are talking to people, you're smiling. We had that on like our wall, on our phone jam wall in my office when I was new. It said smile while you dial. There are smiley faces, because like you sound more inviting. So, oh, hi, calling it up. Oh my God, stop doing that. So smile. Hey, Miss Susie, how are you? Sweet, hi, smiles. Everyone good? All right. Super important. It really makes a difference as you're going through. When you're going to sit down to phone, do you have your phone approach? Do you have your phone objections? Do you have your phone tracker? And do you have your schedule? All right. Making sure you're always ready for that. All right. My manager say like, where's your toolbox, right? You need to have your phone script. You need to have your objections. You need to have your schedule. You need to have your tracker. And then obviously your attack list, right? Who you're calling. And so those were the 5 things that we need to make sure we always had when it was time to phone. All right. And so when you guys are going through, with your customers, now we can hit the approach. Now, as far as the approach goes, any approach that you do, there are 4 parts to any phone call. How many parts? Put your fingers up. 4. Number 1 is the hello and who the hell you are. All right. So when you're brand new, you're just like, oh, hey, auntie, it's Kat. Oh, hey, like they know who you are, right? If I'm calling, like I remember calling my friend Ronnie's mom. We played volleyball together. Okay. But I didn't call Ronnie's mom every day. And I also hadn't seen Ronnie's mom in like 3 years. And I remember calling and I was like, hey, Mrs. Peralta, this is Kathy Vasquez, Mickey and Armando's oldest daughter. I'm like, I played with Ronnie at South Florida volleyball. She goes, I know who you are. I was like, how are you? I'm like, long time no talk. How's everything? And that was like an acquaintance, right? That I hadn't talked to in a while. I remember calling Mr. and Mrs. Hill from our old church when I was in middle school. And I was like, hey, Mrs. Hill. I'm like, this is Kathy Vasquez, Mickey and Armando's oldest daughter. And she's like, oh my gosh, how are you? I'm like, I'm doing so good. I'm like, she's like, how long has it been? And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe like 6 or 7 years. I was like, I'm actually going to my junior year of college now. And like literally the last time I saw them, I was in middle school. And she's like, oh my gosh, how are your sisters? How's your mom? You're saying hi. But like the first thing, or it's, oh, hi, this is Kathy Kristen. We met at the Woodlands Mall. You had signed up for a free service call. Okay, great. Or like whoever it is, right? So do you know them really well? Is it an acquaintance? Is it a recommendation? Is it a referral from a service lead or a show? Whatever it is. Step 1, who are you? Got it? Everyone good? Number 2, second step to any phone approach, why the hell are you calling? Okay. And so when you're brand new, hey, the reason I'm calling, I just started a new job with Cutco. As part of my training, I have to put on some initial appointments. I'm doing it for the training. You don't have to get anything. I get paid just to do it. Everyone good? Then when you're calling acquaintances, it's a little bit different. Most of you guys should have this. If not, by the way, it's also going to be in that folder that I'm sharing with you guys. And you'll have in the phone, there's a folder that's for phones. And in that, you'll see Kathy's acquaintance approach, okay? And I'll just share my screen here really quick. But if you're doing the acquaintance approach, same thing. We say, hi, how are you? I don't know, my name is Isabel. That's the first part. And then you let them know what you're doing. So I'm currently a student at Palm Beach Atlantic University studying international business. This summer, I'm working with Cutco to get some business experience and earn scholarship money for school. As part of my training, I'm required to put on some initial appointments. I get paid to show it, Miss Susie, so there is no obligation to buy. I do presentations right over the phone. You just need to be in front of a laptop or a computer at home. All right. And so just going right through here, and actually this was from, I was like, oh, where'd it go? I was like, that is from when we were in COVID. So this is the one, and I'm gonna give you guys so that we have this here. All right. But this has everything incorporated into it. But this is the acquaintance approach. Okay. I used the heck out of this when I was starting off. I don't know what just happened. Oh, there we go. All right. So yeah, so I'm currently a student. As part of my training, I'm required to put on some initial appointments. I get paid just to show it. There's no obligation to buy. I can do presentations in person or right over the phone. You just need to be in front of a laptop or a computer at home. All right. Sorry, guys. Thank you guys for your patience. So that's great. If they say they have Cutco, how long have you had it, whatever. But then we go into the next thing. So again, step 1, who are you? Step 2, why are you calling, right? Like what you're up to. So whether it's the acquaintance approach, your rec approach, your service call approach, your mall approach, whatever it is. Step 3 to anything is you're going to set a time, right? But here's where we level up, y'all. And my manager taught me, he's like, you want to build urgency for a time, because even if you can schedule them without building urgency, it's going to increase your completion percentage. So, once I said that, I'm like, so Miss Susie, I'm currently in a huge competition and my goal is to be one of the top performers and put myself on pace to win a scholarship. In order to hit my goal, I need to complete 5 appointments per day. All right. And yours might be 10 appointments per week, 20 appointments per week, whatever. This was my goal in the summer, was 5 appointments per day, especially during the push. The reason I was calling now is that in order to stay on track, I still needed to squeeze in 2 more for today or 2 more for tomorrow. And I was wondering if there's any way that you could squeeze me in on such short notice tomorrow at blank time, or would blank time be better? All right. And so this goes to, and again, this is going to be in your actual folder, but this is, you know, my rocking phones, because you can adopt this to any approach that you have, right? So this right here, the initial hook, you know, saying hello. I don't know why this is like that, but anyway, what you're doing, what you're up to, then find a time. And this is the advanced urgency that he taught me. He's like, no matter what approach you're using, service call approach, mall approach, referral approach, acquaintance approach, new, you know, person you know approach, they're all different phone approaches, by the way. Don't start calling referrals with your initial approach. You will screw those up. You will not get a lot of appointments, and they will be very confused. So make sure you guys honor that. And I'll talk about that in a second, like the gears, and make sure that you have coaching from your managers when you're going to the next gear. But anyway, so adding the, hey, so my top is to be, you know, I don't know if mom told you, or I don't know if Miss Sandra told you, whoever referred them. If you're calling, my goal is to be one of the top performers in the company and put myself on pace to win a scholarship. In order to hit my goal, I need to complete 5 appointments per day. The reason I was calling now is that in order to stay on track, I still needed to squeeze in 2 more for tomorrow. And I was wondering if there's any way that you could squeeze me in on such short notice at blank or blank time. All right. And then if they're not available, hey, no worries. You know, figured I'd ask. I've just been working so hard. Again, smile while you dial, because you sound different. And then you're like, hey, is it normally for you better in the day or evening? Okay, great. Let me check my schedule. And then I don't care if you're totally open. Never, ever, ever, ever say, oh, I'm available all day tomorrow. When's good for you? That is a death sentence in Cutco, y'all. You are doing work and you're like shooting yourself in the foot. And then the next day you're like, oh my God, I have all these reschedules. I don't understand why. Because you freaking told them you were available all day, and they don't feel any urgency and they don't feel bad rescheduling because you were available whenever. Everyone understand that? Never be available whenever, always be on a mission, always be working towards a goal, always be busy, because you're not only going to book more appointments when you want them, but you are also going to complete more of your appointments. Okay. And so the goal is not just to book them, it's to complete them. Yes or no? Right? I don't care how many demos I booked 20 demos. How many did you complete? 5. Well, that sucks. I booked 20 demos. I'm going to complete 17. All right. And so there are going to be some emergencies, some people that have to reschedule. That's part of the game, but you should be completing 85 to 90% of the demos you book. All right. And if you're not setting them up properly. You're not building urgency. You're not firming them up. Fact. All right. And if you're getting a lot of not interested, you're talking about the product too much. We know that. We know that's where it roots from. All right. So stick to your manual. You're going to have a lot more success. Okay. So anyway, never ever say I'm available all day. So you're just like, hey, is it normally better for you in the day or in the evening? I'm like, great, let me check my schedule. Even if you're open, you just check your schedule and you say, you know what? I actually have a time that I can pop by real quick tomorrow at 11 a.m. or would 12:30 be better for you? I'm like, would that work better? And they're like, oh my gosh, yes. You know, so you could offer 2 or whatever's the next time you have open based on their availability. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, Miss Susie, thank you so much. You don't know how much this helps me towards my goal. And then you got to make sure you firm it up. Okay. So are they writing it down? Do they have a confirmation? He's like, get their address, general directions to their house, the color, the car outside. What should I be looking for? If you're virtual, make sure you have their email address. And then confirm, hey, Miss Susie, is that a time that definitely works well for you? I'm like, the only reason I ask is that I'm working so hard for my contest. And the other day I drove from Sugar Land all the way to Conroe and they weren't even there. I'm like, and so I know moms are really busy. So I just want to make sure that time works well for you. So I can make sure to hit my goal. I'm like, all right, awesome. I'm like, thank you so much. I look forward to meeting, right? Or again, if you're using my acquaintance approach here, which I don't know if I put it in the chat already or not, but I will put it right now. All right, there you go. All right. Let's see here. So I'm like, oh, so, so again, I'm like, oh, so I'm currently in a huge competition and my goal is to be one of the top performers and put myself on pace to win. In order to hit my goal, I need to complete 5 appointments per day. And so the reason I was calling now is that in order to stay on track, I still needed to squeeze in 2 more for tomorrow. And I was wondering if there's any way that you could squeeze me in on such short notice, a blank or blank time be better. Now, guys, as I go through that, I've said it like 6 times now. What do you notice as I'm reading those words? Because I could also read those words and go, I'm currently in a huge competition. My goal is to be one of the top performers and put myself, in order to hit my goal, I need to complete 5 appointments. The reason I'm calling now is that in order to stay on track, I still need to squeeze in 2 more. And I was wondering if there's any way you could squeeze me in on such short notice. I read the words. What do you notice different as to how I would do it? Anybody, what do you notice?
Like desperation and like urgency in your voice.
Yeah.
The other time you read it.
Yeah. And I don't love that word in terms of desperate, but I'm like excited, like working my booty off, right? Like determined, focused. I'm like, in. And so when you're to them, like they need to hear and feel that. And so definitely you're like, oh, so Miss Susie, I'm in this huge competition right now. My goal is to be this. And like, there's excitement. I'm like, so the reason I was calling now is that in order to stay on track, I still need to squeeze in 2 more for tomorrow. And I was wondering if there's any way you could squeeze me in on such short notice at blank or blank. All right. And so I'm prefacing an objection that I could get of like, oh, it's kind of last minute. I already know I'm asking you last minute.
Well, how you did it seemed like in the beginning of how you did it, you added more energy to make it sound exciting, thrilling. Well, how you did the second time, it sounded more like not really motivated, kind of meld them. Or you don't want that. You want them to also get excited for you too. Like, oh yeah, let me help you. Let me help you out with this so you can reach that goal of yours.
Absolutely.
That's I know what you're reaching for.
And again, don't forget, words are about 10%. Delivery is close to 30%. Nonverbals are about 60. On the phone, we lose the 60. We have to make up for it with the tonality. And you can't just read words at them. The delivery, the excitement, the pauses, the loudness, is there any way versus, is there any way you could squeeze me in? Like, that doesn't sound urgent versus like, Miss Susie, is there any way that you could squeeze me in on such short notice? You're going to have more. All right. And if they're like, oh my gosh, Sydney, I'm so sorry, sweetheart, we are out tomorrow or I'm working during that time. I'm like, no worries. Figured I'd ask. I've just been working so hard. I'm like, so is it better for you normally in the evening or on the weekend? Just depending what I asked for. And they're like, oh, weekends are better or evenings are better. I'm like, okay, no worries. Let me check my schedule. You know what? I actually have a time that I can pop by in the evening, or I can give you a call for an appointment in the evening at 6:30, or would 8 p.m. be better? I'm like, would that work better? And like, oh my gosh, yes. And then you're like, hey, awesome. You don't know how much this helps me out towards my goals. And then we go to, step 4, firming it up, making sure they write it down. I don't know why this breaks so weirdly. I can't figure out how to put it together. It won't work. But then, I always used to say, oh, draw a smiley face, so you know who to look for when I'm walking up to the door. And then can I have a good email address as well? So I can get you all set up in the system. And then just make sure I'm like, so I know, does that time 100% work for you? I'm like, the reason I ask is I had a few people were scheduled on me last minute and it really put me behind for my goal last week. I'm like, I know you wouldn't do that on purpose. I'm like, but I just want to know if this time definitely works, right? Like that's another way of doing it there versus what I had on the other. So what we're going to do is I want you guys to practice. So the things I want you to take from this, so we're going to go through is like, one, do you have your toolbox ready when you're going to make calls, right? Do you have your attack list of people, or you might just be using your app, but just getting organized and knowing who are the 20 people I want to call now or 30 people. As you get more experience, a lot of our guys use a spreadsheet because they'll track and they'll put like the name, the customer, who they came from, whatever, but they'll put like the area, right? So if I'm like going to be in the Woodlands doing an appointment, I can sort and then call all my Woodlands people first, right? I can sort it by city or Sugar Land or wherever. So when they say Houston, I say, oh, what part of Houston? And I like to put it more detailed because guess what? My old office in Clear Lake was a Houston address. My office up on 290, close to Jersey Village, also says Houston as the address. They're both Houston. They're over an hour and a half away with traffic, okay? So I want to know what side. So if they're like, oh, we're down by Clear Lake or, Houston, but like down by Pearland or Friendswood, I want to be as specific as possible. The other thing is when you have people in different time zones, right? like Janine had on her spreadsheet, you know, like a tab for West Coast, a tab for Mountain, a tab for Central, a tab for Eastern. Like she was from Eastern, so she had the other time zones. And so when you got people from different areas, you know, she would put anyone that was from on the West Coast on one spreadsheet. Why? Because she was trying to book late night appointments, or she's trying to still be making calls at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. Well, y'all, 10 p.m. here, or at least in Florida, that was 7 p.m. in California, right? 10 p.m. in Florida was 8 p.m. in Colorado, and Mountain Time Zone, right? Like 8 p.m. So just knowing, like, when you're calling late night, or if you're calling early morning, you know, she's like, I want to start calling people. Like one of my guys, Caden, he was working really hard for his goal. And he's like, can I make calls at 7 a.m.? I'm like, yeah, you can definitely call people at 7 a.m. And he's like, can I start earlier? I'm like, I wouldn't call people in Texas earlier than 7. I said, you know, 7:30 to 9:30 is prime time. People are definitely on the road. If you guys are on the road at 7 a.m., I mean, it's packed in Houston. Like, go on the highway, go on freaking I-10 at 7 a.m. It's packed. People are up. I said, I wouldn't necessarily call before. I said, if you're really trying to hustle and get more appointments, I said, who can you call at 7 a.m. or at 6:30 a.m.? Call East Coast. I said, it's 7:30 or 8 a.m. there. You know, and they're, oh, okay, cool. Right. And so are you organized? Do you know where your people are so you can maximize your phone times? Right. So that's just a pro tip of, like, you know, you can create a spreadsheet, start putting, every time you get referrals for the day, put them on there and organize them where they go. The top people, they usually pay, you know, a virtual assistant to help them organize their leads. But you got to take notes. Hey, who's from here? Anyone on the West Coast? Anyone in different time zones? Like asking those questions. So again, this is more advanced, but I'm just sharing with you guys. These are things that really help me. I had my referrals on a notebook, and I just made notes, you know, and I'm like, okay, they live out of town, or they're in New York or whatever. Cause I had name, number, city, and relation. That's what I had on my like referral notebooks back in the day when you used to write them. Now that they just upload them, you guys want to ask a little bit, right? Like at least the top 5 to 10 people, you know, who's from here. And by the way, Miss Susie, from the referrals you gave me, is there anyone that's out of town? Or, hey, who do you know that lives on the East Coast? I'm trying to get more early morning appointments. Or who do you know is on the West Coast? I'm trying to get more late night appointments. And so asking for those things. Okay. So it's back to referral stuff. But anyway, so for phoning, we're going to role play this. But again, do you have your attack list? Do you have your schedule with set times that you're going to be offering? Do you have your phone approach ready to rock? Do you have your objections sheet ready to go? And then do you have your tracker, right? I always had a little tracker so I could track my calls and see my progress. These were the things that my boss showed me to, like, be a phone warrior. He's like, and then as far as the approach, like, smile while you dial, read your approach, build urgency, and firm it up. And if you do that, you're going to crush your calls. And I got really good at that. Cool. So I'd love to hear any feedback on any of this real quick before we transition and go into our last portion on sales. So our last section here is going to be some tips to help increase sales. Like, now, some of you guys have heard some of this, and so I'm going to kind of move through this a little bit quick. But I have a document that I love that has so much in there already typed out that you guys can steal from, and will make you a lot of money. Okay. And so this will be, you'll have access to this as well. But it is my 7 steps to a sale, like on steroids. Okay. And so this is something my manager walked me through, guys, and I'm just going to walk through this, and then I'm going to show you guys the deposit close, which is baller, how to use your bonus points, and making sure you guys are using trade-in specials. Because if you do that, you are going to sell. You increase your average order, by the way, just with the trade-in special, that statistically increases average order by like $100. Okay. The deposit close increases average orders. I haven't tracked the exact numbers, but holy crap, between my guys, like, some it's been $80. Some it's been $200. Some it's made their average order go from Elias, his average order was like $150. And after incorporating the trade-in and the deposit program, his average order went up to over $600. Okay. And it was like 100 and something bucks. And so just a combination of the things that I'm going to go over right now with the sales stuff, like, it all makes such a huge difference. So let's dig in. All right. So you might've heard this before. I don't know if you've heard me talk about this, but let me pin myself so we're not watching you guys yawn, you know, there we go. We'll just watch me in pain having contractions over here. All right. So 7 steps. So the first step to any sale, and this is not a Cutco thing, this is a non-Cutco, okay? I teach this in all different industries to people. I do sales coaching on this. And so the first step to any sale, and I'm showing you how we apply it in Cutco, okay? Is to build rapport, all right? Obviously you guys know that, build a relationship, connect, all right? And so what's the process? I gave you guys the high level, but this is, basic process for sharing goals. I gave you guys my like 7, my flow to like really crush that. But then in the beginning, as you're chatting, those seed plants, you guys have heard this at different workshops before. If you haven't, oh my gosh, use this. All right. And so when you give your sales goal, hey, my goal is to get to $10,000 by Tuesday, by the meeting. So Ms. Jones, if you want to just write me a check for, 10 grand, that'd be great. Then I'll definitely hit it. You're like, no, I'm just kidding. I'm like, high five. I'm like, yeah, we'll find something for you. All right. But again, their sales expectation, you're having fun, you're being silly, but you're also throwing out big numbers, which helps expand their mind for bigger sales. Okay. And then I'm like, we'll find something for you. And then I say, and by the way, Miss Susie, like after, I share stuff and I told them like, hey, I get paid just to do it. Da, da, da. This is an extra thing that my manager taught me to throw in. He's like, hey, by the way, this stuff is way too expensive for you to buy just to be nice. I'm assuming you didn't put away 7 to 10 grand to redo your kitchen today. But I do want to show you why so many people invest in Cutco. Like, the Jones from church, like they've had them for 30 years. Miss Sandra has had them for 52 years. The Thompsons, they actually got them like 5 years ago, but they're like absolutely obsessed. And her mother-in-law actually had them for like 30 or 40 years. And so it's super cool. I'm like, this stuff is amazing. And they're like, oh, wow. And so you're seed planting. Okay. When I first started, my manager, I just said, I'm assuming you didn't put away a couple grand waiting for the knife girl to come by, right? But then as I kept growing in the business, it was like, you want bigger sales? You guys want to sell Cutco kitchens? You want to give yourself shots at $5,000 or $7,000 orders? Those are really fun when they happen. They don't happen all the time. All right. I've had, I think 7 orders that were over, $6,000, $5,000. My biggest one was 16 grand. But like those don't happen all the time, guys. The average order is $500. All right. But when you plant seeds, it's going to help you sell a lot of the bigger orders. All right. So we go through like, oh, so Miss Jones, if you just want to write me a check, and then I'm like, I'm just kidding. We'll find something for you. And you could just say, hey, so by the way, after you say, hey, like I said on the phone, you don't have to get anything, keep a lookout, da, da, da. And then I'm like, and by the way, this stuff is way too expensive for you to buy just to be nice. All right. And we want a seed plant. And if you were there last week, I talked about this and just making sure like do they hear it costs more? It's expensive at least 10 times, right? This is an easy place. But then, hey, I'm assuming you didn't put away a couple grand waiting for the knife girl to come by, or hey, I'm assuming you didn't put away 7 to 10 grand to redo your kitchen today. But I do want to show you why so many people invest in Cutco. Like, guys, name drop anyone they might know, anyone like even if they don't know them, obviously it's great when they do. But just name dropping, you're like, yeah, this stuff is awesome. So if you don't know anyone, do this. Say like Johnny from our division, like his dad, like they've owned him for over 60 years. I think there's somebody up in Woodlands. I forgot his grandma's. They've had him for 70 years. Like I've met a bunch of people who've had him 40 or 50. I'm like, how cool is that? I'm like, this stuff is awesome. So just talk about other people. Step 2 to any sale is you have to establish credibility, right? They need to know that you're legit or your company's legit. If you're a psychologist and they're needing help or support, like what degrees do you have? Where have you been featured? Like they need to know this stuff because that makes a difference in like me using this company or me using this company is the credibility that they have. And so when you guys talk about, the company on the company page, this is also a place you guys can be building up the price and value. And so I'm like, yeah, when we say how we make K-bar for the US Marines, I'm like, yeah, Miss Susie, we make the knives to protect our country. I'm like, so obviously it's super high grade. When you mention how it's made in the USA and it's guaranteed forever, I'm like, so obviously it's going to cost more. All right. And so you're planning, right? We want them expecting a bigger price at the end. If you do that, you will sell more. When the scissors cut the penny and you're showing them the product, Miss Susie, as you can see, these are super high quality. So it's definitely not cheap. All right. These are things you guys want to say. Then we go to step 3. Step 3 in any sale is you want to create a problem. All right. Because if you don't have a problem, you don't need a solution. So I always joke around about this when I run sales trainings, but I'm like, you see this in infomercials all the time. They're like, do you have a hard time sleeping at night? You're like, yeah, well, we got, whatever. Or do you struggle with overgrown weeds? And you have that person in the back trying to take their weeds down. And it's super corny, but they're trying to accomplish a real objective, which is creating a problem. Because if you don't have a problem, you don't need a solution. Okay. And so making sure that as you guys go through, and by the way, this is already integrated into your script. But there, again, there's a psychological reason for why it says sets with wood handles, sets with plastic handles. Don't just say knives, because then you have them thinking about knives. And if you want to sell sets, you want them thinking about sets, right? If they have good knives, hey, Miss Jones, you have Wusthof, or you have, I'm like, those are top of the line in stores. I'm like, biggest issue that we've seen is just, with Wusthof owners, they just have to be sharpened every time they're used, and eventually you will replace them. And they like, almost every single time, I'm like, oh my God, I know, or like, oh, it's such a pain, or very small percent, which is like the chefs, the real chefs that love sharpening their knives, but we're not targeted to them. We're targeted to middle-class moms that cook all the time. And I promise we don't like sharpening our knives. So it's very nice to have them sharp. Then we go to step 4. All right. And so step 4 is now you have to build value for your solution. Why is your solution so good? All right. Why is your solution so good? So for us, we say, hey, there's 5 features that make Cutco the best, right? Let me tell you why they cost what they do. And so planning, again, we're talking money. This costs more. It's not cheap. It's an investment. Like, we've got to be doing that throughout. Very, very important. I mentioned this at the conference last week, but if you're doing it in Spanish, no son baratos, son una inversión, son costoso. Those are the ways you want to say it. You don't want to say, son caro, because that means like they're expensive, but they're not worth it expensive connotation. So you want to say they're not cheap, they're an investment, they're costly, like they're like an investment. Those are the words I was using. All right. So no son baratos, son costosos, son una inversión. Like son una inversión y no son barato are 2 of the best phrases for those doing demos in Spanish. And so then we get to, build value. So I'm like, oh yeah, so let me tell you why they cost what they do. After the video, recap it. Okay. This was so helpful for me. And he's like, as the video goes on, you write the 5 things down as well, and then recap it. Hey, so just to recap the video you just saw, the first feature, Miss Susie, did you write it down? Which one it was? Oh yeah, the handle. I'm like, universal wedge lock handle, it definitely costs more, but it's worth it because it fits lefties, righties, big, small hands. It reduces hand fatigue, a lot of cool perks. The next feature on the handle was that, and you're just recapping the 5 features, and it costs more, but it's worth it because the benefits, right? We use that 440 steel, costs more, but it's worth it because it stays sharp and it stays clean, right? The double D edge costs more, but it's worth it because it holds a great edge, and you always have a sharp knife. The full tank construction, better balance, better support. It's not going to pop off. So it costs more to have that, but it's great because it lasts longer, right? And so you're just recapping. And then the biggest reason Cutco costs what it does is the guarantee. And then you go into the guarantee. Everyone good? Then the next thing here, this is a transition. So these are 2 really good transitions that are not in your manual. This is something my manager taught me to help sell more bundles, all right, and get them thinking about all the different things that we have, right? And so this is a phrase you can say when you guys are going, transitioning away from the guarantee. So he's like, at the end of the guarantee, you can say this. So you're like, hey, I'm going to put here transition at end of guarantee. So I'm like, hey, so Cutco makes everything for the kitchen. We have your knife sets, we have cookware, we have flatware, we have kitchen and outdoor accessories, as well as military grade hunting and fishing knives. Miss Susie, I'm going to start with the knife sets first because that's usually people's first investment. But then I'll show you everything else real quick, because if you do see stuff you might want later for you or for gifts, there are great deals on bundles and packages. Cool. And the more you buy now, the more you end up saving. And they're like, all right, cool. So anyway, so we have that, right? And then now we go to showing them the homemaker. So this was a phrase he taught me. It's kind of in there, you guys, you don't have to, but the phrase that I love is this right here, and so I'm like, hey, so we have 3 family sets, Miss Susie, but I'm like, our basic set was designed in 1949 to cover your basic cutting needs. It's 7 knives, 2 forks, and a spatula. So that's something he taught me to say, hey, it's 7 knives, 2 forks, and a spatula. Like it's good for families who don't cook too much. And then we have our complete set that has our basic tools. And we have one in the middle called the signature, right? I'm not going to go through this. What I want you guys to make sure you're doing is right there, is as you transition from tool to tool, this will help you sell more sets. There's a lot of psychology here. I highlighted them, okay? And so it's like the next tool in your set, right? And so they're thinking about tools. You need different tools for different jobs. You're saying, hey, the next tool, sorry, in your basic set, the next tool in your basic set. And they're like, hearing my basic set, this is just the basic set, this is basic set. And you don't want to say the chef knife or the petite carver or the trimmer, because they don't connect with that the same way. He's like, use the nickname, because then they connect. And it's easier when you go later. So when you're dropping down, which most, all right, like 8 or 9 out of 10 of your sales are going to drop down. All right. They don't all buy the homemaker. It's usually like 1 or 2 out of 10 that buy the homemaker. Even when you're experienced. Okay. So we're going to sell a lot of galleys, a lot of starters. And so when you're showing them what's in the tools, I could tell a customer, and they just met me, or like this is their first time seeing Cutco, and I could say, oh, this one has the trimmer, and this one has the chef, and this one has the petite cart. And they're like, which one's that? Which one's that? Versus if I go, oh, this one has the small utility, this one has the air knife, this has the chopper, this has the heavy duty. Do you guys see the difference there? Give me a thumbs up or head nod. You're able to connect better. Okay. And if they're going to buy a set, they need to be like, oh yeah, I use that. Oh yeah, I use that. They need to connect with the tool. So you say, hey, so the next tool in your set, or the first tool in your set, Miss Susie, is your air knife. And so it's called the paring. Like, do you guys ever cut anything in the air, peeling, paring, like my aunt does? My aunt does plantains. And so she'll like take the top off and like peel the sides. We're actually making a pastelón for dinner tonight. It's Puerto Rican lasagna. It's like plantains and then meat and cheese, and it's magical. But anyway, so I'm like, this here, yeah. So the parent, I'm like, my grandma likes to peel potatoes in the air. My, mom will top off strawberries. She actually eats apples like she's Huck Finn. She'll just take a piece and eat it off the knife. Peaches, avocados, going around taking pits out. Do you guys ever do anything like that? Like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Your air knife, that's the guy for that. You're never going to use it on the board. That's why we have your small utility trimmer. Cool. And so the trimmer is actually, excuse me, this is a, by the way, anything fist size, Miss Susie. Yeah, I'm like, have you ever cut a tomato with a dull knife? And like, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is awesome, because you don't have to like poke the tomato and go around it. I'm like, it just glides right through without squishing it. You can use it for limes and lemons for your Coronas. Do you guys ever do any of that? Or oranges, grapefruits, like all your citrus? You're like, oh yeah, of course we do. I'm like, all right. I'm like, think of it as your small citrus knife. You can also use it for trimming fat off of meats, deboning, deskinning. I'm like, although we have a specialty knife for that in the larger set. The next tool in your set is your spatula spreader. I'm like, do you guys ever make sandwiches or peanut butter? I love peanut butter and jelly, or if you're putting mayo on a sandwich, or cream cheese on bagels, or do you guys ever do brownies or pies or lasagnas or anything in dishes, casserole? And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, the spatula is awesome because you can cut, you can scoop, you can serve with one knife. My sister will ice a cake, cut it, and serve it with one tool. So it's pretty amazing. Like, oh wow. And the next tool in your set. So like just every time, the next tool in your set is the nickname. It's called the blank. Do you guys ever cut blank or blank or blank? So instead of just saying, this is used for da 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 da, you say, oh, do you guys ever cut this or this? And they say, oh yeah. And you want to get a yes, that's your goal. And you're like, oh, awesome. I'm like, so this is your watermelon knife, but you can also use it for X, Y, and Z. And that helps them connect. And if they say, oh, I'm going to use that, I'm going to use that, I'm going to use that. Well, guys, that's going to help you sell more sets. If they don't think they're going to use all the tools in the set, well, why would they buy a set, right? And again, the homemaker, that's the set my grandma's had since 1957. That was literally designed to cover all the basics in a kitchen for a lifetime. If they love to cook, if they love to entertain, that's where the medium and the larger set are definitely a recommendation. All right. So just want to make sure you guys hit that. That's going to help you guys with having more sales. Then comparing prices. And we're going to talk about this right now. Like I'm skipping to here because this is So important, okay? And don't worry about triple close and that. You guys will learn that for Super Bowl. We're gonna have coaching on this on July 1st. All right, but if you're just, I just want you guys to understand like the close and the psychology of it, all right? And then we're gonna go through so I can show you guys the deposit program. I'm gonna show you guys a trade-in special, and I'm gonna show you guys how to use their bonus points, okay? But when you compare prices, we're gonna walk through, this is your, 9 and 10. And I want you guys to see, what that looks like. Actually, I'll just pull this up here so that we have it. All right. So you can follow along if you don't have it memorized. But this is one that, number one, record yourself saying it. Make a beat to it, make a song to it. You want to memorize this as soon as possible. This makes a very big difference in your confidence, and especially when you're asking people to spend a lot of money. Because Cutco's an investment, guys. Again, it's not cheap. It's not something they buy every time they see it on sale, okay? It's something that you buy once, you use every day, and you're going to have forever. So keep that in mind, all right? But let me go ahead and launch a practice demo here. There we go. All right. So down here, again, you guys can always navigate through stuff. So I'm going to go straight to selecting the best option. All right. So number one tip, as you go into this, if you are not, so whether you're in person or not, if you are in person, you should have your Cutco notebook where you do all your deals, write down prices, and hand those over for customers to see. Got it? Every time you guys are working on prices, you have to write stuff down. Important also, if you're on the on video, all right, or on the phone, which again is harder, you have to make sure they have something to write with, because everything that you write down, you want them to write down. Okay. So I like video because they can actually see what I'm writing and they can put that there. All right. So really, really important. So as far as this goes, all right, I'm going to show you guys what this looks like here. My little man got home. Hi. So there's three parts to the close. The first part is the actual comparison. And so that is, hi, buddy. That is this part right here, and it goes all the way through and like page 9, that's your comparison. So some key things here that I was doing wrong when I first started is I was trying to knock them down, like, oh, they're not as good as us, or, whatever. All right. So when it comes to, so right here, when we go to start, before I go into the closing, so typically I did this right at the bottom of the summary. So I finished the summary and we have this, and then I would say, yeah, so I'm like, people just absolutely love this stuff. You guys can, show some of the testimonials. And I'm like, oh, Miss Susie, can you do me a huge favor and grab a pen and paper? I was like, I'm about to go through prices and stuff with you, and I want to make sure you're able to write those down. All right. That would be if I'm on a virtual demo. If not, I've got my pen and paper ready to go. All right. So we go here. So I'm like, all right, so Miss Susie, you've got that pen and paper ready? I'm like, beautiful. I'm like, well, when it comes to high quality cutlery, it's like anything else. There's a wide variety of quality and prices. Cutco's top rated, so we only compare to the highest quality brands. Have you heard of Wusthof or Schön before? Like what you see on your screen right now, Miss Susie? Have you heard of those before? Some say yes, some say no. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, these are the top selling brands in stores. I'm like, if you go to Williams Sonoma or Sur La Table or Macy's, like you're going to see these are the top that are sold. And each of these brands has different types of sets, which range in price. Wusthof is the most popular. The price for this Wusthof set is, you can see there's 3,015. Sometimes you can find it on sale for less, as you see there. And even for that type of money, it is definitely worth it. They are fantastic. Now, there are some major differences between these brands and Cutco. And I'll pause real quick. When I was new, this is what I was saying, is that I wasn't building them up. I was like, oh, that's like, I'm like, isn't that a lot of money? Or like, I was just like saying different things that was totally hurting my ability to sell bigger. So guys, we are talking about something right here, Wusthof Classic Icon, the Schön Kaji, like these are top of the line in stores, okay? This is like a 7 Series, fully loaded BMW, top of the line Mercedes, it's not like, these are like top of the line luxury vehicles. Cutco is like the Bentley or Rolls Royce, okay? But we're selling it at a BMW price, and not even at the 7 Series price. We're selling it at like a BMW 5, you know? So just understanding like you're representing something the best is always going to cost money. The best is not cheap. All right. So know that and take pride in that. And then also know that the average order is $400 or $500 and all the deposit is 80 or $100, which means they're just putting aside 20 or $25 a week. And for a couple, that's $10 to $12 each. Okay. So very, very doable as you guys are going through. So there are, so back to here. So building them up. So I was like trying not to build them up that high. I'm like, oh yeah, they're good, whatever. But like, I didn't want to build them up too high. And what I didn't realize is then I'd do the comparison, which is next. And I'd be like, we're better, right? But my manager was like, Kat, the higher you build them up, and hey, this is the best, these are top in stores, da 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 da. And even for that, I'm like, totally worth it. I'm like, here's how we compare, we're better. The higher you build them up, the higher you're building us up. I was like, oh, and I didn't realize that. Cool. So it does make a very big difference. If you were at the event last week or you've met, you know, Riley Shaddell, his brother, John Austin, he was screwing this up big time when he started. And, you know, he'd be like, oh, isn't that crazy? You know, that much for knives. And he was never selling sets. And he's like, I don't understand why. I watched his clothes. I was like, you're literally telling them they're crazy to spend a couple grand. He's like, oh. I was like, no, it's just matter of fact, hey, these are the best in stores. This is what the top stuff, you're informing them so they know if they go to a store, this is what the top stuff costs in stores, you know, and then here's how we compare. So we're like, so Wusthof has mostly straight edges. So they need to be resharpened, which is a hassle. You know, they're not recommended for the dishwasher and the warranty is on manufacturing defects only. In comparison, Cutco has our unique wedge lock handle. It has the exclusive double D stay sharp edge. And we have our 4-part forever guarantee, including the free sharpening. Cutco owners will tell you that it's 10 times. And here's where I name drop. I'm like, Cutco owners like my grandma, like Johnny's dad, like some of my friends at work who families have had them 30, 40, 50 years. They'll tell you it's like 10 times better than any knife they've ever used. And just considering the guarantee and the unique features, most people would agree Cutco is at least twice as good as Wusthof. Well, when something offers twice the quality and value and lasts forever, you'd expect it to be at least twice the price. And at twice the price, you're talking over, you know, with the sale price there, Miss Susie, you're talking over 4,600. Cool. So it'd be like buying a really nice refrigerator or a really nice sofa or a dining room set, or even like a really nice set of like Snap-ons or Craftsman tools. All right. So we can go ahead and write this down on your paper. And I always, again, show them. If you are online, you should be using a Sharpie marker so that it's bold and they can see it. Okay. I don't have a Sharpie next to me right now. I was not prepared. I apologize, but I'm going to show you guys exactly what I do. So I'm like, all right, so Miss Susie, if you can go ahead and write down 4,600 just right here on the corner. All right. And this is why I like to have a Sharpie marker because it's very dark. But if you can go ahead and write down 4,600. All right. And typically, obviously, I'd be right here, like they can see this. Don't have a background on because then it's harder if you're on virtual. But I had no choice to get away from my child. And then I'm like, yeah. So again, it'd be like buying a really nice home appliance, a new bad butt refrigerator, sofa set, dining table, you know, anything like that. But okay. And I'm just connecting to stuff that they would spend money on anyway. All right. And then I go to the next page. And I'm like, so our Homemaker Plus 8, which I showed you, is our most popular set. It's perfect for families that cook 2 to 4 times a week. It has the 10 basic tools I explained earlier, the 8 table knives, the wood block, and the board. All right. And so guys, what we just finished before was part 1 of the close, which is the comparison. All right. I mentioned there's 3 parts to the close. The second part to the close is actually the price presentation. Okay. Which is this right here is the price. Like you're actually telling them the prices. And then the third part of the close is actually asking for the order. Like, would they like to try it out? Cool. So when we grade you guys, when we do skills checks, I typically grade on those 3 areas because you might do great comparison, you know, awful price presentation, and, you know, I don't know on the last part. Or in John Austin's case, he did a horrible comparison. He did an awesome price presentation and asking for the order, but he killed himself on the first part. And so just knowing like there are 3 different parts you want to nail. So one, are you doing the comparison properly, slowly? Are you building up the competition? Are you showing how we compare and how we're better? Then are you writing down prices? Okay, super important that you're writing prices down and having them write it down on their paper so they have it. All right. And so when we get to this part, I'm like, hey, the great thing is, Miss Susie, is that it doesn't cost 4,600, although it would be if it was sold in stores. All right. And so if you can go ahead and cross out the 4,600. All right, go ahead and cross that out. And right underneath that, if you can go ahead and actually put 3015. All right, go ahead and put that right under. And I don't know if you remember from the last slide, that is the retail price of the Wusthofen stores. Cool. And so as a matter of fact, we're not even as much as that because we're not sold in stores. All right. Our Homemaker +8 is actually only 1613. So if you want to put that down. So Miss Susie, we're about half the price than the top retail stuff in stores. But it's guaranteed forever, which is pretty awesome. All right. And so again, you could pay for it in full today, Miss Sydney. But like I mentioned earlier, like assuming you didn't put away a couple grand waiting for the knife girl. All right. So what most people do is they use our deposit program. All right. And if you want to go ahead and write down to the right of it, 100% refundable. One So 100% refundable deposit. And the deposit for any set you want to try, you're basically going to put down 20% of any set that you want to try. Okay. So 100% refundable deposit for 20%. And what this does is it actually gives you 3 weeks to try it out and just see how you like it. Cool. So if you want to go ahead and put that, let me know when you're good. But 100% refundable deposit, 3 weeks to try it. Cool. Go ahead and put that down. Again, if you're in person, it's easy. You're just showing it to them. All right. And so the deposit is, and it depends if you're seeing people out of town. If I'm in Houston, I'm like, it's going to come out to $349 with taxes and everything. That's what the deposit would be. And so you have 3 weeks to use it, abuse it, make sure you love it. Cool. Worst case scenario, send it back. You had a free Cutco for 3 weeks. All right. Worst case. And I highly doubt that's going to happen. Everybody loves this stuff. So you have one of 2 options. You can call and pay the whole thing off, or a lot of people love to do our easy pay. It's interest free and it's just the same amount each month. Okay. And basically, Miss Susie, what you would want to put aside, let me grab this, is $87 a week. All right. So I'm just going to put $87 in the weekly budget, which comes out to $43 each. So if you want to go ahead and write this down, if you did the easy pay, again, it's going to charge you the same amount each month. So you would want to put aside $87 in the weekly budget, which would come out to $43 each. Cool. Let me know when you've got that. And then I've got one more thing to share. And I'm literally waiting. Like, I want to make sure they have it down. Again, if you're in person, you're just sliding it over and you can keep going. If you're virtual, it's going to take a little longer because you have to be slow on this part. You have to make sure they write stuff down because a confused mind doesn't buy. And if you're just shooting out a bunch of numbers and prices, you're not going to sell as much as you could. If you do this properly, you're going to sell a lot more. All right. And then I'm like, all right, Miss Susie. So we have something called a buy now bonus. And what this is that if you actually, it's a reason to buy now versus later. If you wanted to go ahead and do that now, I could actually give you the kitchen tool set, the entertainer pack with those gadgets that you saw, or a pair of the super shears for free. Cool. And so I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask, would you like to try out your Homemaker set today? You can either pay in full or just do the deposit. So you can put down the deposit, 100% refundable, try it out for 3 weeks and see how you like it, and then just go from there. Is that something you guys would feel comfortable squeezing into the budget? Or do you guys want to go ahead and do that? Or hey, do you want to try that? Or you want to do it in class group? Like, I don't care how you ask expecting a yes. Cool. So that is the deposit close. And so I'm going to show you guys, this is out in the folder as well, but I'm going to give you guys a link because I actually want to role play this right now. And so this is called, sometimes it's called the trial close, because it's giving them a 3-week trial. But let me ask you guys this real quick. I know some of you guys have been at a workshop of mine before and we've gone over this, but why do you think? Because when I learned this, when I learned the deposit, and I've taught it to, I don't know, probably thousands of people over the last 2 decades, what I saw is my average order went up, my closing ratio went up. When I taught this to Elias, I saw his average order go up, closing ratio go up. When I taught this to Mikey, I saw his average order go up. So every single person that I coached one-on-one, that I taught this and we got this down, their average order instantly went up, their closing percentage went up. Why do you think that your average order and your closing would go up utilizing the trial close? Anybody? Why do you think? Why do you think you're going to sell more often? And why do you think you're going to sell more doing it like that versus here's a homemaker price, here's a 5-pay, do you want to buy it?
I think it's just because you, like you said earlier, a confused mind doesn't buy. So when you give them like the way you described it, the way you broke it down for them, it makes it easier for them to understand. It makes it easier for them to see what they're actually buying, so that it actually knows, like, okay, this is what I'm spending, this is what I get. And it's just like you said, also like trust me, know me, trust me, know me. How's it going? It's just building the rapport of it. And I know John can back me up.
Like me, know me, trust me.
Thank you, John.
I got you, buddy.
It's just building that rapport of just getting to know me first, and then you trust me, and then you also trust my product as well, because that's just how people work. It's just like a psychology effect as well.
Yeah, and that's huge on the rapport aspect and stuff. So absolutely. Why else do you guys feel using the deposit close versus a regular close, you would sell more often and you would sell at a higher rate? Higher average, excuse me.
Personally, I think that it's because this is like a lower risk thing. So whenever they hear all these refunds and all that, they're like, okay, we can get it. And then that way you're able to sell it easier.
All right, you're right on. They're not making a commitment yet. It doesn't feel risky yet, right? It's like, oh, I can just put down 100% refundable deposit and try this out. All right, it's a lot more comfortable. And y'all, if you haven't heard this, you'll hear it now. Closing a sale is all about finding your customer's comfort zone. All right. And so here, like, human beings naturally have a harder time with commitment, right? And so you caught them off guard. They weren't planning on shopping. It's not like they came to you to shop, right? You did an appointment, you show them these awesome products and they're like, holy shit, this is awesome. And like, I'm actually going to use it and we're going to have it forever. And my great grandkids could have it. Like, that sounds like a great investment, right? But they didn't plan on spending the money today. And so, I don't know, like, we didn't have this in the budget. We'd have like no crap. So they're going through that in their head. And so it's a big decision to make right off the bat, especially if you're asking them to spend a couple grand, right? But when you do it like this, it's like, hey, I'm like, Miss Susie, I'm like, you could pay for it all today. I'm like, but honestly, what most people do is they use our deposit program. This allows you to put down 100% refundable deposit to just try it out, see how you like it and go from there, And so we have something called a buy now bonus, and I explain the buy now bonus. And then I say, so I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask. If you want to try Cutco today, you could pay for it all today, or just put the deposit. That we can try it out, see how you like it, and go from there. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Right? It's no pressure. I'm not committing yet. And it's, again, it's 100% refundable. So it just feels better. Everyone good? All right. So I posted this in the chat. So if you guys want to grab this, we're going to role play this real quick. And then I'm going to show you guys bonus points and the trade-in special. Make sure you have that in your back pocket, because those things definitely make an impact. All right. So if you guys click on the last link that I put, it is the trial close. All right. So you guys can see that. And so all you're going to do is, when you're doing your closing, instead of saying, oh, we have a 5-month interest-free option, you're going to say, hey, Miss Susie, we have 100% refundable security. We have a deposit. a deposit program, or we have 100% refundable security deposit that you can do. And this program, what it allows you to do, it allows you to put down 100% refundable security deposit to try out the products and see how you like them. Cool. The deposit is for 20% and it gives you 3 weeks to just try them and see what you think. Worst case, send anything back and you get 100% of your money back. You have free Cutco for 3 weeks. But that rarely happens. You're going to love this stuff. So you have 2 options. You can call and pay the whole thing off, or you can keep the easy pay, which is interest free, and it charges you the same 20% amount for 4 more months. Cool. So that would break down to, you know, $87 a week, right? The weekly budget. You can go ahead and write that down, which is $43 each. I'm like, can you please write down $35 for each, right? And again, I'm showing them what I want them to write down. All right. So that's the amount that you'd want to, you know, put aside for the weekly budget. All right. And then you explain buy now bonus. And then you ask for the sale and you say, so Miss Susie, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask, would you like to try out the Homemaker set today and get your free gifts? You could pay in full or just put the deposit so you can get the products, get a feel for them, and then decide. All right. And the little subtle head nod, expecting a yes. All right. Recording. So we had a great question that I'm answering and, you know, with dropping down from there. But yeah, so I talked about the galley on the same thing. And then when and they're like, they said yes right there, or they're like, still more. And I'm like, no worries. I'm like, did you like Cutco? Because I want to switch the energy, right? Versus like, well, let me show you something else. I was like, so Matthew, did you like Cutco? Yeah. Okay. Is it something that you could see yourself getting in the future? Yeah. I'm like, is it okay if I show you some of our smaller options and different, because you could customize it. I'm like, that way, at least you know for the future, you know, whether now or later, at least you know. Is that cool with you? Oh, of course. And then I'd say, let me just ask you, Matthew, if you were going to make your perfect set, what are the 4 or 5 tools you feel that you would use the most? And I just pop up the picture. There's a picture on your stuff that shows all the different knives, right? And I pop that up. I go, if you're going to make your Matthew's perfect set, what are the 4 or 5 pictures, or what are the 4 or 5 tools that you feel you'll use the most? Tell me them, Matthew.
Let's go with I'm gonna go with the Petite Chef,
Oh yeah, chopper baby.
the Butcher,
Okay.
and the Master Carving set.
Okay. By the way, I've done 500 appointments. Never have I ever gotten that if they're not going to buy the bigger set. Never. It's like the chef, maybe the butcher, because they like do a lot of chicken and just joining. But then it's like the trimmer or the spatula. Like some of the smaller knives are the most used. So I've never ever gotten someone say the Master Carving set after. So I'm changing you up. I'm going to say trimmer because that's super used, and spatula. So chef, butcher, trimmer, spatula, and scissors. Cool. Those are things people usually like a lot. All right, awesome. Well, Matthew, just so you know, you can pick out whatever pieces you want and customize your own set. But we do have some pre-made, like there's like 5 to 7 pre-made sets that are our starter sets. These are really great for weddings or birthdays or when someone's like first moving into a place. But I have a lot of customers that'll start there, you know, just because there's other things going on right now and they didn't plan this. It's okay. And then when they're ready, they'll upgrade from there. Okay. And so that is, and I write it down. I write it down for them and I say, all right, cool. Hold on, dude. Oh. All right, here you go. All right, sorry, y'all. Little monster found me. So I say, yes, we can customize. I said, you can customize anything. I said, but we do have some pre-made sets that are a much better value. And the deposits on those are between 80 to $100 a month. You know, or $120 a month, depending on which one it is. And they're like, okay, cool. So I'm like, is it cool if I just show you those real quick? And then if not, I'll show you what it would be if you wanted to customize the pieces you want. And they're like, great. And then now I go through the starters, but here's the cool thing. And again, I'll post this video in the email I'm going to send to you guys, is as you go through, I'm like, okay, so the next one is our, you know, essential set. So this has the chef you really liked. It has the spatula you liked. It has the larger utility instead of the small. It doesn't have the scissors or the butcher. You could get one of those free, but not sure if that's the best. The next tool, the next set is the Studio, and that's the trim and the spatula are there, but it doesn't have the chef butcher or scissors, so probably not the best set for you. The next set we have is the and I walk through, but I'm pointing out the stuff they liked, and I'm like, oh, the Space Saver has the chef that you like, the trimmer that you like, this, but it doesn't have this. And I'm like, actually, the all knife might be a really good one. It has the trimmer, it has the spatula, it has the chef, it has a larger, the carver, and then you could get the butcher or the scissors for free. And we offer that. So I'll send you a video so you can see that process, but it just makes it a lot more comfortable as you're dropping down. And then if not, we can always customize for them. Cool. And then if you call your managers, many times there'll be a bundle that exists bigger that they'll end up liking more, which is awesome. And if not, we at least start them with their Cutco collection. But again, closing a sale is all about finding your customer's comfort zone. Cool. So again, they're not comfortable. I'm like, if I feel or see, like, listen, watch, look, if when you're like, hey, would you guys want to do that today? And then they're like, let them think, let them go through, and then wait for the reply. And if they're like, oh, honey, I don't know, we can do that right now. Cause I go, Miss Susie, no worries. Like I let them off though. I'm like, they don't need to tell me a sob story for 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, Miss Susie, no worries. I'm like, I want to make sure that if you do like something that you're comfortable, I'm like, there's actually a set right under that I love showing my customers. It was rated Best Buys by Consumer Digest. Dr. Phil gave it to everyone in his audience in like a Cooking Healthy episode. By the way, this is true. You guys can look it up. And it's called our galley. It's a few less knives for a lot less money. And I walk them through what it has. And I'm like, and the deposit drops from $350 to like $240. I'm like, so basically you're looking at $60 a week, which is about $30 each. I'm like, is that something that I said, would that feel more comfortable for you? And they're like, yeah, you know what? We can do that. Boom, done, closed. I sold a lot of galleys like that super fast. And then if they're like, oh, I just don't know. And I'm like, hey, no worry. I'm like, did you like Cutco? I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, is it something you could see yourself getting in the future? Is it cool if I just show you some of the smaller options? That way, you know what we have, for whenever you are ready. Yeah. I'm like, and Miss Susie, just so I know, if you were going to customize your perfect set, what are the 4 or 5 favorites? And I show them that and I go through that process. Cool. So I'll send you guys a video so that you guys have that. So hopefully that answers your question, Matthew, and then some.
Yeah, thank you very much.
But I will, I'll get that out in the email that I'm going to send to all of you guys. Okay. Last couple of things I want to show you guys in here. I know we're supposed to end early, but all my pauses have lengthened our time. So we've got your bonus points. So I just want you guys to understand this, and I'm going to give you my basic rule of thumb my manager taught me. Okay. But why do you want to give away free stuff? Do you give away free stuff just to give free stuff? Yes or no? You don't go, I was at the mall the other day and they didn't, oh, you're shopping? Oh, do you want something free? Like, no. They don't just give away free stuff. When do they give away free stuff? Well, at the mall, sometimes they'll say, oh, if you spend over $150, you can get, a free gift. Or if you spend this, like they use it to incentivize more sales. Or if you buy today we're doing this promotion. So they utilize free stuff for the same reasons, right? To buy now or to buy more. Same thing. Another way you guys can use free stuff is to get more recommendations, okay? And using some of your bonus points. So just knowing, like, for every $100 someone spends, guys, you can give away 20 points. All right, easy math, divide by 5. If you're like, okay, your customer Caesar has an order, they're looking at stuff and the stuff they picked out is $438. And you're like, how much can I give away for free? What do? Divide by 5. You're like, all right, $87. Cool. That's the 20 to 1. Is 20%, divide by 5. So whatever they're looking at to purchase, divide by 5, and that's how much you can give away for free. Cool. If you're going to do a really cool deal, or you want to give extra free stuff because they're giving you more referrals, or because they're going to buy some other gifts or whatever, then you can divide by 4. Divide by 4 is what we do when we do a trade-in special or like a max out free stuff. That's, my manager taught me that. I made it really easy. These are all the rules here, but literally divide by 5 is the consistent. Always you can give away up to that much. And then if you're doing a deal, a trade-in, they're giving you more recs. Like if you're incentivizing, you can actually go to divide by 4. And so if they're spending 400 something bucks, you could give them $100 for free. All right. But this is your basic chart, but just again, 20 points per 100. That's why I said divide by 5. That made it really easy. You don't have to use all your bonus points every time. All right. You want to use them effectively. There's great things to offer. There's stuff in your app where you guys can like maximize on stuff. And then it's always really good to help build orders up, which as managers, they do that for you guys, right? But just remember, you know, any sale today is better than a promise for later. And when they buy something, that means they're always going to get discounts in the future. All right. But if you haven't used all your free stuff, that's a great thing in the end too, to utilize recommendations. And I'll say, hey, by the way, if you guys wanted to do this, or if you're able to do a double sponsor, I can actually buy you that pocket knife that you really liked for your son. Oh, really? All right. Because I know I have the bonus points left to do it. So use bonus points strategically to help you guys capitalize on more of those sales. Cool. Any questions on that? All right. So this right here is the secret weapon. All right. And if you guys don't know this, let me just explain how it works and then you'll have it in there. Who's heard of a trade-in before? Raise your hand if you've heard of a trade-in, like trading in a car at a dealership. Raise your hand. Why do they let you trade in a car at a dealership? Why is that even a program? Why do you think? Anyone?
I would say because some of the parts of the car are still usable and like they can still get value out of it rather than just trashing the whole thing.
Okay. Why else do they have trade-ins as an option? Because then I could literally say, I already have a car, right? Like I already have a car. And so what the dealership is saying is, hey, we know you have a car, but we know you want that sexy new one. So if you want to trade in your old car, we'll give you credit for it so that you can get the new car. Everyone got that? That's it. Why? Because you already have a car. So that could be your reason for not buying a new one, right? I already have a car. And so they're acknowledging, hey, we know you have a car. We know you want that new one. If you want to trade it in, we'll actually give you credit towards that new vehicle so you can get into that now. And so that's why they do that. Well, guys would do the same thing here with our knives. Cool. So we have a program called the Trade-in Special. If you guys haven't utilized it, it's money in the bank. This is great for customers who they might have Wusthof or they got a good set of knives like in the last 3 to 5 years. Maybe they've had them for 10 years. If they've had them for 10 years, that's easy for the trade-in, by the way. Or maybe they just have crappy stuff, all right? And they're like, no, they don't know if they should pull the plug. And I'm like, Miss Susie, and so I would say, I'm like, question for you, Miss Susie. If you sold those knives at a garage sale, how much do you think you'd get for them? Right? Like your old stuff, like any of your stuff, like how much do you think you'd get at a garage sale? And I get funny answers, you know, like if they had nice stuff, they're like, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks each, or like $100 for the set. I had a lady who's like, I'd have to pay them to take the knives. I was like, yeah, they're pretty beat up. And so whatever it is, I'm like, how about if I told you, you could actually trade in some of your old stuff? I'm like, our company has an incentive to help sell more of the larger sets, by the way. You know, this all goes back, like we do donations, we support different charities. And so the company has something called a trade-in special. And so if you donate your old knives to a local charity, or if you give them to me today and I can take them, you can actually get a major discount on the set that you liked, or you get a ton of free stuff. And they're like, what? I'm like, would that interest you at all? I'm like, so with that homemaker that you liked, like if you trade in some of your old stuff, you could actually save 240 bucks. So you would get a $240 discount for trading in your old knives. Okay. Or you could pick out $425 of whatever you want for free. And they're like, excuse me, what? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, they're like, for this, you know, and sometimes they had like nasty wood corroding ones. And I was like, I'm like, yeah, for this, right? So anyway, like that was something that my manager taught me, and it was awesome. And it's really good for people that are like on the fence, or they're like, oh, we already have knives, or we already spent this much on this, you know. So whether it's like too much money right now, or I don't know if I want to spend that, I'm like, well, hey, I said, did you like it, but you feel the price is too high, or it's more than you wanted to do today, or so you like it, but you know, your knives are still good. I'm like, well, we do have a special that I think you'll really like then. And here's how it works. It's kind of like when you go to a dealership and you want to buy a car, right? And again, this is the script here. I'm going to pull it up so you just have it. But I'm like, it's kind of like when you go to a dealership and you want to buy a car, but you already have a working car, right? What do they let you do with your car? Yeah, trade it in. And so the same thing here with our knives. What you can do is you can trade in a few of your old knives, or you can donate all of them to charity, whatever you want. And we give you a major discount. And so instead of whichever set you're looking at, right? So I'm looking at the Homemaker. So I'm like, so instead of $16.13, you can get the set today for only $13.73. And so that is a savings of $240, or you can pay the regular price and get $425 for free. I'm like, does that option sound better? All right. Everyone write this down. Free stuff is always better than a discount. Write it down. Free stuff is always better than a discount. Whenever your managers give you deals, the free stuff option is always better for the customer, and it's always better for you. Everyone got that? It is a win-win. It is always better. CPO is always higher if you do free stuff. So my manager taught me that. All right. But this is money. It's an easy way. But did you guys notice how when you're explaining it, you're like, you could get this discount, or you could get all of this stuff for free. You like that better? All right. You want to get them excited about the free stuff option, because that is a better value for them, and that is better for you. Cool. So you guys are going to receive that as well, so that you have that. But that is another tool in your pocket when you have someone that's on the fence, or you have someone that already has good knives, all right, and they're not ready to replace yet. They can trade in, get credit, and get a ton of stuff for free. All right. So who thinks, by the way, who's ever used this? When I started using this, I was like, woo! I started selling a lot more sets. One of my guys, I remember Antonio, he sold like, custom sales and pieces, whatever. And then when I taught him this, he literally, his next 5 sets were all trade-ins. He sold a trade-in essentials, a trade-in Homemaker, a trade-in galley, a trade-in, I think another Homemaker, and then a smaller, like a studio. He's like, I'm the trade-in man. He sold $5,000, by the way, in the next 3 days using this. Like, it is money. People love it. And it's a great thing when they're on the fence to help close a deal, right? That happened to me when I was buying my first BMW. I had my Honda. It still worked, even though it was two-tone and crazy, but they're like, hey, how much do you think you'd get for your Honda? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, we'll give you a $3,000 credit for your Honda Civic, and you can get into this, and I was like, oh, okay. Then I was like, let's do it. Right. And so we're kind of doing the same thing there with them. So I wanted to share that with you guys. All right. Last things, guys, I know we've gone through a lot of stuff today. So I just want to say, like, I want to make sure you guys just look through, the drive. There's a lot of really cool stuff. There's one other thing I didn't get to cover that's in here, and you guys are going to receive it. And that is, and we're going to talk about this more, next week or whatever. But the fact is, the higher you start, the higher you land. Tomorrow morning, we have a kick-ass workshop at 8 a.m. You do not want to miss. Francisco Herrera is going to be talking about how to close $4,000 plus orders. All right. And what it takes to close those big sales. Well, one of the things I can tell you guys right now is the higher you start, the higher you land. Okay. And so I have an approach here to show you guys, how to close on the complete set, and then drop down to the signature. And then if not, then drop down to the Homemaker. All right. The average sales made on the 4th or 5th attempt. Why do the big dogs sell at such a higher average? Cutco Kitchen, complete set, signature, maybe a trade-in in there, Homemaker. They're just getting there. New reps are like Homemaker, galley, starters, pieces, something, right? And so very different. So wake up, show up tomorrow. You've got a script here on how to close on the complete set and drop down from it. That makes it really easy. And I'd love to role play that. Anyone wants to role play here at the end. But if not, I say read through it, and then get up tomorrow morning, because you're going to hear from somebody who's had $100,000 2-week push period tomorrow morning on how to close $4,000 plus orders. And so definitely worth hearing that. And it will be building upon it over the next couple of weeks. But that'll be happening at the workshop tomorrow. And if you're watching this and it's in the future, go back and listen to the recording, because it's going to be awesome. All right. So to close us out here, we covered a lot of stuff today. We started off and talked about promotions, future opportunity, what's available for you guys, opportunities for scholarships, and you've got Team Builder. We talked about, the goal of today, was so that you guys knew about future opportunities, but that you also knew what does it take to sell $2,500 a week, right? And we talked about how that's 10 demos or 10 sales of $250, half the average order. And just that consistency so how do we get those? We talked about how to get more appointments. We went through all the Facebook stuff. We talked about how to maximize referrals, how to enroll your customers, which impacts your business in such a huge way. Like I gave you guys so much stuff today. Went through phone stuff and how to build urgency, how to firm it up, smile while you dial, having your phone toolbox. You know, we talked about 7 steps to a sale and just tips to help you guys level up your averages with the deposit program, with the trade-in special. And then obviously the higher you start, the higher you land. And it's a lot to digest, but like I'm going to send an email recap so that you guys have, and with some other resources to just start digesting this stuff. You know, again, right now it's all about laying down your foundations. In a month from now, a month from yesterday, we kick off the Super Bowl, and we want to crush the Super Bowl. All right, but it's right now. What are we doing for the second half of the playoffs? How are we building momentum? How are we getting our skills down? The more you learn, the more you earn. Period. In life, that's seen as well. Higher degrees, higher paying jobs, right? In a lot of places. Well, guys, here, the same thing. It just exists in life. The more you learn, the more you earn. And so I want to commend you guys on taking time out today of your day to pause, and really it's to like sharpen the axe, you know? I always tell, you know, reps are like, you want me to just, I have demos. I'm like, no demo, like it's a slingshot. Yeah, it might feel like you're going back, but it's to freaking shoot you forward, you know? Or again, when you stop to sharpen the axe, all right, that takes time to do that, but then you're able to cut so much faster, you know, and so much more effective. And that's the same thing you guys are doing for yourselves being here right now. So I'm going to give you guys something to fill out. And I know you guys were here until the end. I want to say thank you. I'm super excited to connect with you guys, and make sure that you talk to your manager about getting a Leadership Academy interview. You do need to be over $3,000 to be able to actually have an interview. And then at $6,000 to be accepted and be an official candidate for the program. And that's by the end of summer. And many of you will knock that out in the next week or so. So I'm super excited for you guys on that. All right. But I've got a quick questionnaire for you guys to fill out before you go. And then go crush your week.